扎利亚的选项直接见底，再来一刀，1到3人再砍。
나노영과 밑에 떨어지자마자 바로 앞에 큐큐가 있었습니다.
啊，不是那个追的话，赶紧补给一下，其实直接给。好的，
可以，
这个节奏就掌握的非常的舒服。刚才是对，
이거 끝났죠? 와 서울. 끝났죠.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another day of Overwatch League APAC action. I am Ilios, reunited yet again with Wolf, and it's good to have you back.
Thanks, man. I'm glad to be back. I'm casting from Atlanta tonight. It's 4 a.m., so it's a bit of a late one for me, but it's not like you've never done these before, so you got through them, and now it's my turn to get through them as well. Two teams going up against each other tonight, Hangzhou Spark and Seoul Dynasty, our first match of the evening. Both teams 11-11, so make a wish at home for your favorite team because Seoul Dynasty, they're on a tear. Hangzhou Spark, I think they need your support if you're a Hangzhou fan.
Yeah, I mean, they had a decent little run back in the Countdown Cup. Were able to make it to the final, but unfortunately, it was a flop there. They got knocked out 0-4 versus the Shanghai Dragons, who just continue to assert their dominance in every single match that they are in. But like you said, Hangzhou, they definitely need to get back on the horse here. They need to find some success. They want to move out ahead of the Seoul Dynasty, break that 11-11, and walk away with the victory here today. Let's go ahead and take a look at their starting six and see what they have prepped for us. And kind of unsurprisingly, as we do go ahead and glance at this, we're not going to be seeing anything too crazy. We have Mika back in here for the support lineup alongside Bebe, like we've been seeing a lot more recently.
Yeah, this is the more common lineup to see for Hangzhou Spark right now, and it's really awesome that Mika is kind of... I know we've been saying it week after week recently, but he's really solidified himself as the starter here on main support over IDK, and he's looking really, really solid on heroes other than Mercy, which is where he got his start this season. But this team, I think, really has their work cut out for them coming up against Seoul Dynasty, a Seoul Dynasty that's coming off a 9-map win streak, 3 3-0s back-to-back. You mentioned it to me, in rehearsal when we were talking about our storylines for today. It's like, well, I mean, 6 of those maps were against London. London's had a rough go of things as of late, but here's their starting lineup. Tuyu still in the mix here. It's going to be Toby and Badoshin on support. Tuyu showing a lot of diva, just more than just the Zarya as of late. He's looking really solid. Marvel's going to be starting with him, so no gesture today. And Prophet also, last week showcasing a lot of reminding people a lot of his skill on hit scan, or reminding them of his ability on hit scan. We'll see how he performs today.
Yeah, I mean, him pulling out the Ashe alongside Fitz has been really, really wonderful thus far for the side of the Seoul Dynasty. Still are going to be running Marvel in with Tuyu for map 1, and then in all likelihood, as we get ready to move into, Escort and Hybrid and whatnot, we will see Gesture step in with Tuyu maintaining that slot. And it's been working wonderfully for the Seoul Dynasty. I was talking about this with Jaws, with Hex when I was casting with him, and now with you. Yes, 6 of those maps were against the London Spitfire, but the biggest thing that you cannot take away from the Seoul Dynasty at all from those maps is how cohesive they looked. Everybody is on the same page as of late, and I'm excited to see that continue moving forward and see how they fare coming into this match versus the Hangzhou Spark. They're already able to take down the NYXL. Hangzhou Spark, obviously not, as far as the standings are considered, a stronger opponent compared to NYXL, but given their run in the Countdown Cup, given the fact that Seoul Dynasty lost to the Hangzhou Spark, I think that they're going to be very hungry to find revenge here today.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Seoul Dynasty can really, to take this win and to go for a 12-map win streak into playoffs. They have their match against London tomorrow, which most expect will be a 3-0 again. We'll see how London performs. Anyway, to go into tomorrow's match with a 12-0 and then potentially go to 15-0 into playoffs, I think that's a huge statement for a team that's been extremely inconsistent, not only this season, but over the last 3 years of their time in the Overwatch League. So it's time for Seoul Dynasty to really shine here, and maybe, just maybe, they can make that incredible run through the playoffs too if they can maintain this level of consistency.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that is the biggest thing that all Seoul Dynasty fans are looking forward to right now. This is the first time, really, that they have this kind of streak going on, and I can't help but wonder for like a Seoul Dynasty fan, does it still feel like you're in a dream? Are you pinching yourself constantly, just being fearful that you're suddenly going to wake up and realize that this isn't reality? It's definitely a major change of pace for them, and if they can keep that ball rolling, then the Seoul Dynasty certainly they climb the power ranking standings. And they're going to have to be a major consideration for potentially making a deep run in the playoffs on the APAC side of things. So we'll see if they can have just as strong of a performance here today. I think that at least from the DPS lineup, they're going to have a bit of a harder time coming up against the Hangzhou Spark. Because when they played against NYXL, it was kind of out of sorts with, Haksal and Nene. Libero was in there as well. They didn't look that clean. And then London, obviously, just kind of flopped overall. So going up against Godsby and Architect, I think is going to be more of a challenge here for the Seoul Dynasty. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they handle this.
Yeah, I am as well. I mean, we are jumping
We're just in a
right into this. So it looks like,
lobby.
oh no, it looks like Gushway didn't connect, so we're actually in limbo here.
Yeah,
For a second, I was like, whoa, Roadhog comp. Well, I'm like,
yeah,
wait,
we're just
Prophet can't
straight
play
into
Ana.
it. Yeah, we're not on live, so we're not going to be seeing a ton of Roadhog yet. But if we get to that,
I don't
point,
even know.
then...
I don't know if we will even necessarily see him in Asia. I mean, I think some teams will run him a little bit, but I don't know if he's going to be like a staple. I'm not sold on that yet, because we do have a pause here.
We'll have to see. Obviously, there's certain players that have been known for their Roadhog in the past. I mean, Geggery is also one of those who has a pretty damn good Roadhog. So maybe if that does kind of become a bit more meta over here in APAC, maybe we get to see Geggery fielded a little bit more. But who knows?
Yeah, it was weird too when like
Guesswork.
Roadhog was like a flex support role too for a while. We might see some of those players like field the Roadhog again if they're on the bench, because we do have some of those flex supports who are kind of on the bench right now because they've been replaced by newer Koreans who might be able to like pop back out with some Roadhog. It is hard to say. I think we will see some DPS players play Roadhog if he is played as well, just instead of playing DPS, move into the off-tank role. I think we'll see a little bit of that. But that's just my prediction. It has nothing to do with this series. We're not going to know about that until we get to playoffs, and there's still so much time before that because we have obviously next week off as well before that.
Yeah, I mean, who really knows what's going to occur? And I'm for again, Seoul Dynasty fans can't help but talk about this because there's been so much inconsistency. I'm curious to see how things are going to look for Seoul Dynasty when we come out of the hero pool, when we go into the playoffs, when everything has been lifted. Because right now they've found their groove. The comps that they've been running, having the Winston go very aggressively, like Jester's been playing it phenomenally. The Diva has been absolutely wonderful for 2U. So I'm curious to see if they can maintain the same level of cohesion and coordination when we just kind of lift all of the bans and put everything back in. Because I think on paper, they should be fine. Because obviously Prophet's got a very good Genji, Vitz can run Tracer, or vice versa. You can have Alyssa back in. I think that they should still be about as strong as we're seeing, but you never really know because it's the roller coaster.
Yeah,
so
I mean, you never know with Seoul Dynasty.
Aspects.
The Seoul Dynasty seems to dominate certain metas as well, and they have historically, especially last year and this year. Like, last year at the end of the year, having double shield strengths, understanding how to play the Sombra meta, the Sombra Goats meta when that was really popular early on last year, and then this year having those strengths in double shield, and having the strengths that we saw obviously from them last week, where they did really well, but then having other metas like Echo when Echo first came out, where they just really dropped the ball, and historically have had great ups and downs when the hero pool is open again. And I think the unique situation with this hero pool being open and how much prep they'll have going into is they have a lot more prep than usual because of the extra week that we have, and the fact that I mean, honestly, they've been playing against some weak opponents back to back. They're having back-to-back wins. I think they're going to come into the open hero pool pretty well prepared.
Oh, one could hope. We are going to, like you said, have that extra week after this one. So decent amount of time for people to get ready and try and, get some scrims in, see exactly what everybody's running, what is going to be the strongest composition as we do come out of the hero pool. So hopefully, all of the teams can take that time and really level up their performances, because we want as close of a playoff as we can possibly have as we get ready to go towards the end of the season. Because I'm not really a fan of seeing the 3-0 blowouts. I'm sure that the Seoul Dynasty fans are absolutely ecstatic with that, and they're looking forward to the potential 15-map win streak. But, I want to see things a little bit closer. Even if it's a 3-0 in scoreline, just have the rounds be close, London's been able to deliver on that front from time to time, mostly with control, and then it kind of falls off a cliff after that. But, if we get some more 5-game series, that's what I'm all about. I don't like my days being done this quick. Obviously, for you on the East Coast, you probably want to go to bed at some point. But I think we can push the limit a little bit.
For me, it's like I gotta drive to my parents' house as well after this for an hour. So it's it's a lot on my mind in that regard. But I think no matter how tired I am, if the games are good, it's gonna wake me up. So
exactly.
I'm hoping for that. I hope we don't have a stomp here. But I think history has shown us, recent history has shown us that we should expect a stomp. And I wonder what Hangzhou Spark's game plan is here, because, they've got Godsby, who's historically been a pretty strong Sombra player. I mean, I think we could see some Sombra. We should see some Sombra from him going into the series. And I think that they should just try to really throw a wrench into the gears of Seoul Dynasty. Seoul Dynasty have done some things somewhat predictably recently, running a little bit of extra Torbjorn, for example. They need to be prepared for that. They need to be ready for that when they're trying to run dive, when they're trying to run that rushdown style. And I think we are seeing a few teams run that rushdown style overall, even with the kind of like banned dive heroes this week, because it kind of leads into what everyone's practicing for playoffs at the same time. So I want Hangzhou to come in with a really good game plan. I want to see a lot of Sombra. I want to see really big emphasis on ult economy, which Seoul has sometimes messed up. Oftentimes Seoul has relied on their mechanical skill and not their coordination, even though they're looking better recently at coordination. I feel like that's something that Hangzhou could try to mess up and disrupt when using Sombra comps, for example.
Well, it looks like we're going to have to wait a little bit longer to find out what the Hangzhou Spark is going to be running here. I'm going to be expecting a little bit of the McCree and perhaps some Echo to come out from Architect, with Prophet likely matching on the other side of things. But we're going to have to wait a little bit longer, as we will have a quick little break coming up. So we'll be right back and hopefully jump into the first map of this series. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back. ready to jump into our first map of this series, our first series of the day. Hangzhou Spark versus Seoul Dynasty, in case you just woke up, got out of bed, got into your PC, or turned on your Chromecast, whatever your device you're watching on. So we're having a little bit of a pause. We had Guxue disconnect as we were getting into the game. We have our first map of Ilios, and hopefully we'll be good. And we can start the action and see if this is going to be the 3-0 that some people are predicting. I disagree, though. I think this could be a close one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you think it could be a close one?
I think that it could. I think that out of all of their performances, Spark, like Architect and Godsby have been very, very strong overall, and I think that they could still very much contest with Prophet and Fitz. So I think that this is not going to be as easy of a match here for the Seoul Dynasty. And I don't think that they've done enough yet to deserve my faith in them. So I think that this could very well be a closer series for the Seoul Dynasty, and I think that the map streak might be broken.
I think that Prophet and Fitz, when they're at their best, when they're at their peak, I think are stronger players right now, and I think the coordination of Seoul Dynasty looks to be at a higher tier at this moment in time. But like you said, you never know how they're going to play. But if Seoul falls on the first map or has a really rough start, maybe they drop out 0-2 here on Ilios. It looks like we are finally back in game.
Huzzah!
Then I could see things changing. I could see the momentum shifting into Hangzhou Spark's favor. Seoul Dynasty's always been a very momentum-based team, an emotional team across the years. Even though this is a completely different roster, Toby being the only core member from year one and from Lunatic High, but Hangzhou Spark here, I think it would make a big statement for them if they were able to win this against Seoul Dynasty, especially in a meta like this. And so far we don't see Sombra from Godsby. He's actually showing us the Echo. I don't know if that's actually going to hold true. I was going to say he's not really the Echo player. That would be Architect if that were to be true. And Fitz is on the Sombra himself with Tuyu on D.Va. I've been very impressed with Tuyu's D.Va in the last few matches. Very, very strong D.Va player. Reminds me of Fury in a lot of ways, and some of Fury's best moments over the years. It's going to be Ash Sombra on both sides.
Yep, alright, so do have the mirror. We'll see who comes out on top here. Godsby has always been a bit of a hit scan god. Prophet recently trying to remind us how strong his is. Dynamite just going to be consumed. As Marvel gets slept, Bionated, and Prophet going to be taken down. The headshot comes through. Godsby finds a double tap to get the kill. Toby in position, though. Safe enough to bring the res through. Point contested for now. Bionated out of the 2. There's a hack on the Bebe, and he'll be taken out. Fitz manages to find that kill. It might be enough to try to break through here, but res comes thin. As that res comes out onto the Ana, Guxue going to be taken down, but it will be a trade out on the main tanks as Marvel falls as well. No Wrecking Ball there, and Hangzhou Spark will be able to lock down the point here at the start. QQ, however, going to be pushed back. It's jumped on by Tuyu. He does manage to find that kill, but now will get knocked out of the mech himself. Rez comes in, puts Prophet back into the mix of things. As we see Fitz has to leap back. EMP's nearly online for both of these Sombras. Architect going to be getting his up just a little bit faster as he takes down Marvel yet again. The Seoul Dynasty have to go ahead and feel back.
Yeah, this is a problem that Seoul Dynasty has had. A lot of these matches they've lost this year, including that finals against the Shanghai Dragons, is just not knowing when to leave. They're a team that has mechanical gods, including Tuyu, their newest member to the roster. He's considered to be a really strong off-tank player, flex-tank player who's mechanically skilled. I think he believes that himself. They're almost getting staggered here, but you've got to know when to leave.
Yeah. Well,
and that was too late.
Yeah, they play really far forward here up against the Seoul Dynasty, all the way back towards their spawn. EMP was committed to the fight by Architect, managed to catch about 3 people with that one. They find the cleanup, so Hangzhou playing away from the point. Very nicely done as they go ahead and stretch above 60% now.
It's a team, and Seoul Dynasty's always been this way, of big egos, right? And when you're playing these scrappy team fights, sometimes you feel like you can turn it. I'm better than Architect, I'm better than Godsby, I can turn this fight. But then you lose it, and suddenly you're at 75-0, and you've only got one team fight chance left here with this EMP. We've got one shot at this.
EMP comes in, manages to catch both of the tanks. He kills the follow. Into the follow-up hack there on a Guxue. They do manage to take him down before the hack expires, so he can't pop the Primal Raid. Self-destruct comes in now from QOQ, looking for a pick. Won't be able to find one, but it creates enough space for Mika to get in a position to bring the res out onto Guxue. Bomb up over the top. 2U looking for a pick. Will not find one. Safely will remake. Marvel going to be slept. Bionade goes out. Bebe takes him down. We're into overtime now. Hangzhou Spark still holding the point. Fitz tries to turn it, gets rid of the Baby Diva. They have to stay in this one, keep it contested. The flip will come through. Seoul Dynasty finally on the board, but how long will that last? 2U going to be hacked. They push forward, looking to break him out of the mech. They will manage to do so. Hangzhou Spark back in control. Only 5% built up for the Seoul Dynasty. They do manage to touch right before the OT bleeds away. Still fighting tooth and nail to get this back into their favor. The Nano Boost is available from Bedosian. We'll see who he wants to toss it out on, or maybe he actually can hold on to it for a little bit longer, it would seem, as they do manage to find 2 more picks here on the back end.
Yeah, this is a really even ult economy that we're in right now, so Seoul Dynasty has to be extremely careful with what they use going forward. This next fight, obviously, EMP is not ready for either team, but they're about to come online. Seoul Dynasty cannot afford to lose this fight. If they can hold this fight without EMP, they've got a really good chance of swinging this round back into their favor and taking it. But if they have to use the Nano, they have to use the EMP in order to hold on to this. Even if they do hold it, Architect can hold his EMP and then come back in to finish it off. So this is the toughest fight Seoul Dynasty is going to have yet. But if they can win it, there's a chance here.
Nano has to be used to keep Marvel alive. Not hacked, almost got melted. Goes in, pile driver, not going to be able to connect with anything, almost has that minefield. Another hack comes through. He's trying desperately to retreat over to the Mega Pack, but they just cut him down. Everybody pushing forward. The Dynamite now finds Profit right as he gets the bomb online. The Hangzhou Spark to trick back in onto the point, trying to get this flip. EMP comes through. It finds 2 on the Seoul Dynasty, only 1 on the side of the Hangzhou Spark. QOQ will not be demeched off the back of that. Point still staying alive here for the Seoul Dynasty as Toby takes to the skies with the Valkyrie, but Fitz will fall. Looks like Toby so far not going to be able to find a pickoff. Kushui just beating and batting 2U away from that cliffside. Manages to knock him off the map, and the Hangzhou Spark will secure the first round win, 100% to 52. A very strong start for Hangzhou.
And we were critical of the Seoul Dynasty overextension there in that scrappy team fight where, you know, you've got these mechanically talented players trying to turn the tides in that scrappy fight. I'm talking about fights that look like they're, you know, you're 3v4 and you think you're the 3 and you think you can win it, you stay, you keep trickling onto the point, and Hangzhou Spark starts to solidify the position, you keep fighting in, you feed ult charge, you win it. But the thing that really stood out to me, besides Seoul Dynasty's minor blunder there early on in the round, was how good Architect's target selection of his hacks was. He shut down 2 several times, prevented him from escaping, prevented him from boosting away, shut down Marvel on the Wrecking Ball, and the Wrecking Ball pick ends up being fairly weak against the Sombra, who's constantly hounding him down, constantly tracking him, so Marvel had a really hard time. Architect is having a great match here so far, and
Oh man,
that happened.
Just styling on him. Drops over on
he messed up his
He's
pile
already
drive.
At 53%. Look at his ult charge.
It's insane.
Unbelievable. Point's not even unlocked yet, and the guy's at 60% towards his minefield. Marvel has rejoined back into the fray as 2U gets antied. Taken rather low here and will get team-mech'd right at the last second before that Bionade expires. Kushui goes back in, gets the pile driver down, avoids Marvels, and is about to have this minefield online. This guy is putting on a clinic right now with this Wrecking Ball. You think the names away, I would think that this is maybe, you know, Among right now, but Kushui is just looking phenomenal.
I mean, getting an early kill like that is definitely going to help your ult charge, and also meant that Seoul Dynasty had to wait for Marvel's return, and Marvel's return had to be quick too, and a little bit haphazard because, you know, they needed to have the even numbers. So positionally, they were at a disadvantage. Risky play here from Fitz doesn't pay off. Architect hasn't done very much damage though. It's really been Kushui and Bebe leading the charge in terms of that. So he doesn't have that EMP ready for the defense.
It does not, but it might not matter. Looking for the hack here on the Marvel, and he's still being taken rather low. 2U is going to be gone, so they don't have that D-Matrix to help mitigate the incoming damage from the Hangzhou Spark. Minefield now going to be plopped down. They jump on top of the high ground there against Fitz. Being kept alive for the moment. Looks like he was able to translocate out. Now nearly has that EMP ready to go, but Seoul Dynasty going to get something done on this point pretty soon here. 15% already on the board for the Hangzhou Spark.
I can't believe they both lived. Kushui and QQ both lived with like less than 100 health. And Seoul Dynasty can't engage now, they can't commit. They have Fitz ready and waiting, but he doesn't have a translocator where he wants it.
Well, they got a sleep dart on a Marvel, commit this up the struck just to take him down. I'm now going to be tossed in by Godspeed. The EMP strikes from the side of the Seoul Dynasty. Instantly, 2 members going to be taken down. The bomb getting rid of Architect. For Hit 4 now. Still do not have the point under their control. Fitz is going to be forced to jump back. TU tries to get his own self-destruct online. They'll get the break here onto the baby Diva. The minefield will finish her off. Flip comes in as the Hangzhou Spark hit 81%. It looks like Guxue, yeah, just going to be wanting to peel back, disengage now, and get ready for a reapproach. They know that they have time on their side.
Marvel is not the type of wrecking ball who can eat a nano here to defend the EMP. You know, we can't pretend like he's a top wrecking ball player in Korea right now, or rather in the APAC region right now. We have to be honest. I'm a little bit worried for Seoul Dynasty on this fight where Architect comes in with EMP. Guxue is having the performance of his lifetime here on this wrecking ball. He might take this nano. Could be QOQ as well, but this is a really good fight setup here for Hangzhou Spark. Seoul Dynasty needs to disrupt it somehow. They can't just take this sitting down. And it's going to be a really hard fight here because of that EMP advantage for the Spark.
Nano Boost goes out onto Guxue, keeps him up. Cosmic finds a headshot on a Fitz, but it will be a trade out as Bebe falls. Nano Boost going to be used this on a Prophet. Dynamite goes forward. He's looking for a pick, but so far hasn't been able to find it. Everybody just peeling back out of his line of sight. QOQ pushes up. Rez comes in from Dobie. Really aggressive Rez. It does cost him. Cosby strikes down 2 members of the side of the Seoul Dynasty. Now a third as Marvel will fall as well. No tank line, the point back in their control. It's 84% here for the Hangzhou Spark. Seoul Dynasty now in one-fight territory from getting shut out of this map.
Yeah, and with the minefield and Bob available here for Hangzhou Spark, they can sort of zone Seoul Dynasty out. Guxue needs to be careful. He's going to retreat back and get that healing. Seoul Dynasty have to they have to engage right now. They cannot wait.
Yeah, they get onto the point, but Marvel going to be eliminated before he can use the minefield. Now 2U tagging in, forced back. B-Mech, EMP comes out from Fitz, but instantly has to translocate out to safety, and there's just no one in position to really follow up. They get Toby in there to try to get the res, but the bomb to the back will find Prophet. Now Marvel going to be taken down. Toby going to be floating around with that Valkyrie, but he's looking for an opportunity to try to get onto the point, and he just cannot do it. And the map streak has now been broken. Not going to be able to move up to that 10-0. The 9-0 is as good as it gets for Seoul Dynasty. Hangzhou Spark are able to take Ilios to start off this series with a win.
Really impressive plays from Guxue there. In the end, his minefield kept Seoul Dynasty away. Obviously, they were kind of trickling back to the point, try to tag and try to buy time. It's hard when you're actually losing members to a self-destruct at that moment, right before that 99 to 100 swap through there. But I have to say, despite not doing a ton of damage in the team fights, I feel like Architect's hack targets worked out really well, and he was constantly shutting down the tank line, shutting down 2U, who's one of the high-impact players we've had for Seoul Dynasty in their last few matches, and shutting down, you know, in this case, Marvel on the Wrecking Ball, shutting down a hero that is so impacted by right-click hacks, can't even really function that much. You know, a Wrecking Ball can't when hacked, and he didn't look for fast EMP builds, he just looked for kills, and it's really reminiscent of Lip's playstyle on the Shanghai Dragons, and I like to see that.
Yeah, really, really clean. And then when Guxue swaps over onto the Wrecking Ball, he just shows off with it. I mean, an incredible start to that second map right there, that second round, rather, of Ilios surging forward in ult percentage. I'm actually going to go and watch that back in the break because it was that incredible. You know, what he did right at the beginning there. But great start for the Hangzhou Spark. They have now stopped the streak, and they're one step forward for trying to take that 12-11 record and shut down the Seoul Dynasty's hopes of picking up a win. We're going to go to a quick little break, and when we come back, we'll have our second map, see if Seoul Dynasty can tie things up, or if the Hangzhou Spark will just be able to take another step forward, make it the match point. We'll find out in a bit, so stay tuned.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor. The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile. And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Ilios out of the way in this series as the Hangzhou Spark were able to take a 2-0 victory on that map over the Seoul Dynasty, so the map streak is over. But now it's all about stabilization for the Seoul Dynasty, trying to get back into this set and tie it up as we get ready to jump into Escort.
Yeah, and the map is going to be Gibraltar for this series, so I wonder if Prophet can do something else here. Can he play something other than the Ashe? Because it feels like Godspeed kind of controlled the sight lines on Ilios there, and that can be obviously a big problem for Prophet when he's trying to run this composition with the Sombra. Then you've got Architect's Sombra, which is really shutting down the Wrecking Ball, so I think we'll probably see Winston here from Seoul Dynasty if they want to run a similar composition, but we'll have to wait and see. But I'm a little bit scared for Seoul Dynasty suddenly, and I was the guy who was just 10 minutes ago saying, well, I think we have to expect a 3-0 here for Seoul Dynasty. But after that first map, it's an emotional team, like I was saying before, and it's a team that just got shut down pretty hard by really nice hack selection from Architect and overall better ult economy. So it's not like it's impossible for Seoul Dynasty to bounce back, and after that one map, I'm just going to completely change my prediction. I think Seoul Dynasty can win this, but if it is going to be a Gibraltar that's decided by Winston play by sightlines of Ashe v Ashe, based on what we just saw, I'm a little bit concerned.
Yeah, I mean, Godspeed just dominated that matchup. Architect was just dominating, the tank line constantly. Whether it was 2U or Marvel, was always hacking them. Everybody was always following up on those hacks, and we just didn't see a similar impact coming through from the side of the Seoul Dynasty. We're very much out of sorts. I mean, Fitz was doing his damnedest and was often keeping pace, if not being in the lead, to building up his EMPs, but the follow-up wasn't often there, and he was sometimes, and I felt like the majority of the time, was trying to drag fights back in their favor by committing the EMP after Marvel had already fallen or after 2U was kind of already demeched. So it was a really rough position to be put in overall for the members of the Seoul Dynasty. And now they have to try to collect themselves and get back into this and have a very firm performance on Gibraltar.
And there were some moments, too, as you can see our map sets popping up here. There were some moments where Fitz was killed as Sombra because he got spy checked by Dynamite and was just blown up immediately by Godspeed. Godspeed's doing a great job of shutting down Fitz when he's trying to flank, when he's trying to set up for those EMPs. And a few of those fights, too, I mentioned it in one of the EMPs we saw from Fitz, but oftentimes he EMP'd by walking into the fight, which sometimes you have to. Sometimes you don't have a safe translocator. Sometimes you can't translocate in, especially on maps like Ruins, for example, where it's not easy to just simply translocate into the fight because the terrain doesn't allow for that. But I feel like Fitz has had a big problem getting in and trying to find impactful hacks and trying to find impactful EMPs, despite, like you said, often being the faster building EMP player because of how he's kind of farming EMP, whereas we saw Architect just kind of sit back and look for hacks on the tanks. So being a little bit of a mismatch here for Seoul Dynasty from the start, but they're going to defend first on Gibraltar here, and it looks like they are going to be running the Winston. Prophet not going to run the Ashe, though. He wants to take it straight to Widow. He wants to win that matchup right out of the gates.
Well, as you can see there on your screen, first time that these two teams have squared off on this map. Let's see how Prophet is going to be faring now in the Widowmaker matchup. And I don't know about you, Wolf, but my feed froze. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, mine too. Okay, I was about to ask you. I'm like, we had to play professional caster chicken where like we both pretend like nothing went wrong for a second, but yeah, it's all good now.
All right, it's taken care of. Everything's fixed. So we're back in. We've got motion. Prophet getting some really nice little taps in. As Gesture is just going to be sitting up top here, helping to gatekeep Gushui and QOQ off that high ground. So good anti-dive coming in from the Widowmaker. Quite a bit of damage through. Let's push up yet again. Dabbing away at each other as 2U falls a little bit low. That pocket healing will start to come in as Bedosian surges up towards that first nano boost here. There's a nice little 30% mod lead over Bebe for the moment. Prophet just waits for his moment to click ahead and take somebody out of the fight instantly. see.
Really struggling. There's a
Back and forth.
Nano out.
Yeah, got the flick there onto Gonsby. Nano will go ahead and help take down Bebe. Toby will fall. Playing right around the rosy here, going around the side of the pillar, trying to get the kill. Mika finally will fall. And looks like QOQ doesn't really have anywhere to go. Not a position to try to stagger the Baby Diva, so they will just go ahead and finish him off. Meanwhile, Gushue does use that Primal Rage back over towards the cart, but it's not really going to net him much. He can exit, jumps back over to safety with the rest of his squad, but as far as ult economy, right now it's very much in the hands of the Seoul Dynasty.
It definitely is, especially with that Primal being committed there. I mean, Mika had a Valkyrie coming online, and had he survived a little bit longer, maybe they could have turned it, but I mean, that was really wishful thinking. Fitz is actually in a really nice spot here. And this EMP should be very, very impactful. Seoul Dynasty should be able to do this very ult efficiently too. They might only use this and the Primal Rage, if even the Primal. As Hangzhou Spark is just trying to farm up the last 25% of their own.
Well, EMP with the bomb drops in straight on top of Bebe's head, and they manage to find the kill. Looking for a little bit more on the follow-up. Nano Boost was used before Bebe got eliminated. Toss that one out onto Gushue. Mika finds the res onto Bebe, and the res comes in from Toby onto Prophet. Hit the can straight back into the fight, but Gonsby does manage to get rid of Fitz, but will just be a trade out. Very back and forth, very scrappy here in the extended fight. Seoul Dynasty trying to stop the cart. For now, we'll be contesting it right at the top of this ramp as it comes out of the underpass. Prophet for now is going to be uncontested. It's another shot, follow-up body tag there onto the Baby Diva to finish off QOQ. And again, Hangzhou Spark going to have to go for a reset. 1 minute and 20 seconds now remaining.
I mean, the good news for Hangzhou Spark is that they have an EMP here, you know, and Seoul Dynasty used way more ultimates than I think they would have wanted to, and it was a really nice fight for Hangzhou in that regard. But the bad news for Hangzhou is this is their one chance, and a nice translocate spot here, but not going to work out, not going to get that kill. But Architect is the man right now. He's the only one who holds the cards here for Hangzhou Spark. The opportunity of a cap on A really lies in his hands. The fate of his team here on this attack is in his hands as Fitz just waiting, gaining information.
Gushue up onto that high ground, gets almost picked off. Bebe now hacked in the back line. The dive comes through to capitalize, taking down that Ana, now looking for the follow-up. They will find that Mercy. So without support are the Hangzhou Spark. Has to run back, so is 2U, will get demeched and finished off. Hack comes in as the EMP strikes, catches 2 members on the side of the Seoul Dynasty as Gesture just wraps around the backside, keeps himself out of harm's way. Cart rolls forward, moves up here to the top of the ramp, and Spitz will be contesting for the time being as they wait for 2U to rejoin back into the fight. Protect on the high ground, looking to farm up as best he can for another EMP, but Fitz has one of his own. The self-destruct nearly there for 2U as well, so that combo is almost ready to go. Prophet looking for that that Ash. So far hasn't been able to find him, and they just won't touch the cart. They jump forward. Bionade connects in, and that is just going to be the Seoul Dynasty pulling off a full hold right in front of point A. Hangzhou Spark looking very disjointed after a pretty concise victory on Ilios.
And Hangzhou Spark getting shut down by that EMP at the last moment. You know, they were trying to contest based on Gushue's Primal Rage, which is why they slow played the last moment, or the last lead up to that moment. Because Gushue is sitting at 85. Remember, he used his first Primal super early in a lost team fight, and was never able to find that impactful second one when it mattered most. I'm not entirely sure what replay we're going to see here is Rez comes into Prophet's double kill. But, I mean, this is a serious swing in terms of momentum for the Seoul Dynasty. I mean, they've got a full hold here so far to start things off. And also, beyond that, I mean, we're seeing really good coordinated plays. Like, the hack onto Bebe from Fitz and that collapse there we saw from 2U to get that kill was insanely well coordinated. It was a really cool move because Seoul Dynasty knew, okay, we don't have EMP. They've got EMP. They're going to win the fight straight up if we let them engage on their terms. But instead of letting them engage on their terms, they made it to 65 to start out. They were in the backline. They were threatening the backside. And Hangzhou didn't get that fight they wanted. Now, Hangzhou, you know, they're not out of this by any means, but this is going to be an incredibly difficult defense.
Yeah, I mean, trying to pull off a fuller hold is not going to be too easy. Prophet's going to go back over onto the Widowmaker here for the attack, where Gonsby is still on the Ash, which is a bit of a head-scratcher for me, given his history as a Widowmaker player. Would expect him at least to be running it on defense, where he's going to have the superior sight lines to play around, but is just fully opting out of that. Seems like he wants to play more in the mid-range. That being said, does find a headshot with a boost of damage on a Prophet. So the res will be forced here from Toby. Prophet is making his way up around the side, and Gonsby is making me eat my words as he comes up with yet another kill, this time on a
He keeps killing Fitz. It's insane how often he kills Fitz. He gets spy checked by QOQ and then blown up by Architect, or I should have blown up by Godsby. Sometimes it's actually spy checked by the Dynamite from Godsby as well. He's just constantly tracking him. I don't think he wants to take this duel against Prophet here in this case, but Seoul Dynasty is slowed to a halt here for the start.
Are still moving steadily to the far side of that underpass, getting ready to now move up. There'll just be a regroup here for the Seoul Dynasty, playing with the time that they have available to them. Nano Boost comes in, they dive way deep into the back, and Meme will fall. Could not get a sleep dart out, and 2U is just going to be profiting, scooping up those kills. Manages to find 2 of them. Jester still dapping away, falls low, doesn't have that primal up yet, but the heals will start rolling in to keep him in the fight. Now he can re-aggress, going back into the server room and try to get that ult online. Spots out Mika, would love to get a kill here onto the Mercy, but can't quite find her. Valkyrie will take him out to safety. Way, trying to alleviate some pressure, jumps on top of Prophet and Toby and will force them back. Has to exit himself, but now both Winstons in the next fight going to be having those primal rages available.
Yeah, and Fitz is going to have an EMP. This is going to be the big problem that Hangzhou Spark has to deal with. Bebe cannot get hacked. He has to have that nano boost. It's absolutely imperative that Gushua gets his full health pool here. He can't get hacked either if he can help it. He's going to have to play passively. If he gets hacked, it's all over.
They're going to strike first, and nano boost goes out. There was a sleep dart connected from Fedosian onto Gushua as soon as he went in for the dive. Primal now going to be popped. Batter Fedosian around, but can't quite isolate him into a corner and just has to exit the Bionade, forcing him back. Another sleep connects, they wake him up. Gushua comes down here onto the low ground. EMP comes out, Gushua instantly eliminated. 2 other members hacked on the side of the Hangzhou Spark as the bomb tries to chip away at whatever it possibly can, but it's not getting any meaningful damage in. Mika has enough space to bring Gushua back into the fray as Architect will get a hack, will get a finishing blow now onto Gesture. But without their main tank, Seoul Dynasty push forward. They're looking for the res. Toby can't quite get it though. Gonsby finds that headshot. A hack on the Prophet will ensure his demise as well. Down to 1 minute and 10 seconds, just 1.79 meters away. Seoul Dynasty are going to have to take another crack at this.
Yeah, this was actually a really nice defense for the Hangzhou Spark. Everything looked Seoul Dynasty favored. They had the EMP. They wasted the Nano and the Primal Rage before using the EMP, and still weren't able to get the kills they needed. They still weren't able to finish off the Hangzhou Spark in their most dire moment. And now, the ult economy pendulum has swung back into the favor of the Hangzhou Spark. Seoul Dynasty don't have great tools to open up this point anymore. They're going to look for a Fitz hack kill again, just like we saw before on their defense. Trying to kill us, they get the translocator.
Find Architect, 7 HP, can they take him down? The EMP is going to come out, manages to find both of the main tanks on the side of the Seoul Dynasty. The res is there instantly from Mika to put him back into the fight. Fantastically done there, and that might just be enough to shut down the Seoul Dynasty. Q makes his way back into the mech, but already, had to use that self-destruct just to ensure that he can get back in. Prophet under fire in the back line will be taken down, and suddenly it looks like the Hangzhou Spark might be able to pull off this Fuller hole.
It looks like they're going to.
Kobe's got nowhere to go. There's 6 seconds remaining. Somebody's going to tag. It's going to have to be Fitz. Prophet swaps over onto the Ash. Kobe's going to be eliminated now, and Gesture is gone. They get the tag on the card.
Unbelievable.
Move back down. It's going to be Fitz. He tags it yet again, but he is down on arrival. The bomb comes out. The OT will bleed away, and oh my goodness, they have actually done it. Hangzhou Spark, after such a lackluster attack, pull off a massive defense. The Fuller hold on Watchpoint Gibraltar to move up 2-0 in this series over the Seoul Dynasty. That is going to be heartbreaking.
And they do it despite being down on ultimates. They do it despite Seoul Dynasty having those really big advantages. They forced out the Primal Rage, the Nano Boost, and they had the EMP after that. They got the hack onto Gushue. They took him out, and yet still Hangzhou prevailed. They still survived. They still delayed. Obviously they had the spawn advantage, so that helped them quite significantly. But Godspeed just will not be stopped. He's getting consistent damage done. He's getting kills where he shouldn't be able to. He's killing Prophet, in Ash v Widow. Wow, I did not expect the series to go this way, and both teams played incredibly well there on Gibraltar, but it looked Seoul favored. Again, it looked like Seoul's got this in the bag. It looks like Seoul has this series in the bag before we start, right? They have all the momentum. They're doing really well in this meta. They've got the 9-0, now 9-2 record they had behind them going to this match, and suddenly everything's changed. That was an extremely close match and anything could still happen in the series. I don't think we're necessarily still looking at a 3-0 here for Hangzhou now, but this has been a great, very close and exciting match so far.
I mean, it really has been. Just both teams kind of dropping their spaghetti on the ground there on Gibraltar. But, man, I mean, so close. 7 more damage onto Architect, and Seoul Dynasty likely, push through. This is a tied-up series 1-1, but they can't get the damage in to finish him off in time. He manages to get the EMP off. The Bionade follow-up from Bebe is perfect to shut down the tank line, and it all just unravels for Seoul Dynasty. So now we're in a position where they have to try and pull off a reverse sweep. It was a very close series the last time these guys played. It did go 3-2, but Hangzhou were able to walk away with it. Can they even get wins on the board now is the question for Seoul Dynasty. They have a little bit of extra time to get themselves settled, to get their minds into the game, to try to pick up that map win, as we do have a game break coming up. So stay tuned, guys. When we come back, Wolf and I will be breaking down the first 2 maps of the series because there's quite a bit to unpack, so don't go anywhere.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Alrighty, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is now time for our game break presented by Cheez-It Grooves. It's a 2-0 here, Wolf, for the side of the Hangzhou Spark, but especially on Watchpoint Gibraltar, very, very close. The 2-0 doesn't really tell the story overall.
No, it really doesn't. I feel like the series could still go to a 5th map if Seoul Dynasty can solidify their ult economy a little bit. That we're seeing a little bit of overcommitments, but we could say the same about Spark. Remember, they had a big problem that they didn't have their Primal Rage on their attack themselves, and then they tried to go for that last-ditch attempt to use Primal to tag, but then we saw the hack go, the solo hack, I think it even was on the Gooshway, so he couldn't Primal and couldn't touch the cart. It wasn't a C9, as I think a lot of people at home might have wrongly thought, but we're seeing mistakes on both sides. It feels very much like it's a high-stakes match when, in reality, it really isn't for these two teams in terms of the overall scheme of the standings. They're both 11 and 11. Seoul Dynasty has an easy opponent coming up next, or not next week, but tomorrow in London. In terms of what we've seen from them already, 6-0 versus London, you would expect a 9-0. But it feels like both teams are playing like it's a semifinals where you see just crazy mistakes and tension is high and emotions are high and everyone's freaking out. But it's actually just the last regular season match for Hangzhou, and Seoul Dynasty second to last regular season match that won't even affect them in playoffs too much. So it is interesting to see how crazy this has turned out to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of insanity that's been going on in this series. But I was kind of talking about this, and maybe this is our crunch time. I don't know. Maybe you have something you want to talk about in crunch time, but I'm going to start crunch time, presented by Cheese and Grooves, and then finish my point and see what you got for me. But I feel like a lot of this is to do with the DPS duo. I was talking about these guys coming into this series and why I thought this was going to be a much closer series, why I suspected that the Seoul Dynasty would not be able to run over this set. And not saying that the rest of the team from the Hangzhou Spark isn't playing phenomenally, because Mika's pulling off some clutch reses. You've got Guxue, who is just doing Guxue things, whether it's on the Winston or the Wrecking Ball. He's been playing phenomenally. QOQ is there. And then you've got Godsby and you've got Architect, who are just, kind of playing out of their minds. They're punishing the dives coming in from the Seoul Dynasty, and Godsby is just never losing sightline advantage. It's just amazing to see.
Yeah, I mean, I want to add on to your point about Mika. I mean, we talked about how he's kind of now the main support over IDK, but he's been able to play Mercy. He is playing a lot of Mercy right now, and it's making impactful reses happen. So he's saving Godsby in those rare moments where he's overwhelmed by Gesture, or Marvel rather. And we're seeing a really phenomenal Mercy performance here with not just the reses, but his survivability. He's being chased down, but he's using his Guardian Angel to fly to different targets and escape death, then come back in with 20 health, and then res somebody, then get healed back up. His healing throughput must be off the charts because he's just so difficult to kill, and he's healing multiple targets repeatedly. And that's one of the players that's really standing out to me right now that might not be as obvious as, Godsby's popping off, he's getting these kills, he's killing Fitz repeatedly.
Yeah.
But I feel like Mika is really doing well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, while he's doing all of the things that you just listed, he is damage boosting Godsby to allow him to win out these trades over the likes of a Widowmaker. So he's really playing this multifaceted Mercy role to a T, and it's phenomenal to watch. A bit of a silent carry, as you're kind of saying here on that last map especially. So it's been really great to watch Mika kind of enable the rest of this team to play the way that they're playing to get that fuller hold pulled off.
I think Seoul could do this. I think they can bring it back. I think they can win this series, but they really need to be. There's no room for error anymore. You really have to take every fight perfectly. I mean, you can't have any more of these fights where Fitz is picked early because he's trying to do something greedy. I like what we're seeing from Fitz a lot of the time, where he's looking for those backline hacks, and then he calls it out, and 2U dives in, and they get that kill, in the backline. That one on the Bebe, for example, really stood out because they knew, okay, Hangzhou have EMP. We're going to take this into our hands. We're going to take the fight on our terms. I like to see stuff like that, but oftentimes he's doing things that are even riskier or crazier, like trying to solo kill Bebe by himself, or going off on his own with no safe translocator and trying to get a kill or a big hack and dying, trying to kill Godsby and dying. These things have to stop. They need to, when they have ult advantages, use their ults more sparingly if possible. Because they do just kind of all press Q sometimes in these fights where I'm like, oh, you have 6 ults and they have 2. If they use 2, you don't have to use 4, right? It feels like we're seeing a lot of those team fights that they could be using their ults more conservatively in.
All right, well, you think that the Seoul Dynasty can make it happen. I'm curious what the fans are thinking as they watch this series, because I'm not sure, honestly. I'm kind of on the fence on this one. But a reverse sweep is what they need if they want to take this series, and they got to dig deep if they want to pull that off. We're going to find out if they're able to do that when we come back from the break. We'll be seeing the rest of this set. So let's see if Seoul Dynasty can put a win on the board as we get ready to move into Eichenwalde.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch.
New York City, let me hear you! What up, DC?
Welcome to the first Dallas homestand of 2020.
Philadelphia!
Overwatch has come home to Houston in front of a packed crowd here today.
Damn, it's good to be back.
Oh, the gravy! The bomb stuck to the back! Goodbye! Good night!
Oh, he gets jumped upon Color Hex. Oh, very cheeky. No!
What? Project's already got it! Popo gets 4 with a fire strike! What is going on? Atlanta Rain! Self-destruct to the back like Jerry!
He tried to make the moves.
Jerry!
Oh my word, he falls to his death.
Jerry!
This is the live Watchpoint pre-show.
As you're enjoying those last hot little zips. That's no. Not shading.
Wait, this is a live show. It's a live show. What are you doing here?
Hear me out.
Thank you for joining us here at the Overwatch League around the world for this special online broadcast.
You know, the world's a little bit crazy out there, so hopefully we can provide a well-deserved, well-needed digital reprieve for you.
Pulse Bomb gets the stick! Ooh, that's 4 for Jinbu. Unbelievable. Another stick! And that's a duplicate for the ages.
Oh my god, Poco!
Dominated. A little bit of a rough go. Unlucky!
So you're 1-0, undefeated. What does that mean to you personally?
Wow, man, it's to be expected. I mean, pretty much the best player. I would argue the best player to ever live.
You just need to pick the May.
Come on, pick the May.
Pick the
There
May.
we
May!
Nori works!
May!
The system works! Nori is the hero we need but don't deserve.
We had an extended appetizer, but now the main course is finally here. The May Melee. Jake, it's finally time.
The Shanghai Dragons have done it. I cannot believe what we have witnessed. The reverse sweep.
That's all it's going to take for San Francisco. They are your victors here of the Overwatch League May Melee.
DM and Lijiang gone against the world, but they cannot get there. The Guangzhou Charge have done it. They will take the grand final, shutting down the Shanghai Dragons.
The Paris Eternal shutting down the Fusion. They denied them of their crown. The Paris Eternal take the series.
The clock has struck midnight on the Countdown Cup, and the Shock are victorious.
Shanghai Dragons assert themselves as the best team in the APAC region, potentially the best in the world.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and carry on with the rest of this series. Hangzhou Spark currently leading 2-0 as we get ready to jump onto Eichenwalde for our hybrid map to see if the Seoul Dynasty can buckle in and get ready to try and pull off a reverse sweep.
That's the hope, right, for the Seoul Dynasty fans at home. The streak is ended. But, you know, the first map, there were problems. It was not close. You know, Hangzhou had pretty much full control of the ult economy. Seoul Dynasty taking some fights they probably shouldn't have. Didn't regroup quickly enough on Lighthouse, for example. But Gibraltar, it was really back and forth. It was neither team was able to really crack point A. It was really scrappy fights. And that could continue into a map like Eichenwalde. Eichenwalde's going to play a little bit differently once you get past A. If there's a full hold, it could look very similar, obviously. But once you get past A, you get onto the more open map where there's a bridge, not a drawbridge. And it's much more open. That's when the ult economy is going to be really important because you're going to have to reset. You can't take those scrappy fights. The distance between the teams is going to be so great that a single pick from a Widowmaker can't win you a fight, but it can lead to small advantages, for example. I said Widowmaker, I meant to say Ashe. IDK is subbing in, which I find a little bit odd. I'm a little bit surprised by it.
I'd have to bend down to be able to see that on my monitor. But yeah, an interesting change-up to see coming through here.
Yeah, I did not expect that.
A changing of the styles, perhaps, for Hangzhou Spark. So we'll have to see what they have ready for us on Eichenwalde.
Yeah, I mean, IDK obviously most famous for his Lucio, but interesting to see how this is going to play out. I don't think he'll be playing Lucio here necessarily, but I mean, you never know. I just hope that he's not playing Mercy, because if he is, I'm like, but did we not just see how great Mika has been playing? I mean, he's been playing great all season long on the Mercy, but in that particular Gibraltar game, I mean, he was one of the big reasons why they won. So I'm curious to see why IDK's in. It's a bit of a puzzling choice to me.
Well, we'll see what exactly they do have prepared for us. I mean, there's been some teams who are tooling around with running, the Lucio, mostly I would say in North America, is kind of where we're seeing that pick come through a bit more so. But I don't know. Obviously, when you get to the bridge, like you said, not a drawbridge. When you get to the bridge, that Lucio can be massively impactful. That's where Toby made a name for himself. But it looks like, at least for now,
Hackfist?
They're hovering it. But this is going to be interesting to see.
They're on
first on the
attack.
attack, so
the shield was misleading. Get that shield out of here.
They certainly could. They're probably going to be swapping it up after this, but and of course, I kind of missed that.
I mean, I think the I don't know. I think this could be real. Like, I think Reaper is quite strong on A on a first push. You got to swap if it fails. It's good with Lucio. It makes sense why IDK's in if it's true. And with 5 seconds to go here, I think this is the game plan. They're just going to run this Reaper rush composition, and your Sombra can harass the backline, but also can be kind of like peel for your team as you kind of slowly try to get on the point. If this team gets on the point, if Hangzhou gets onto A, they kind of win the fight no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, that's already a DMAC on the 2U. And this is exactly what they're looking for. Just make sure that they can't mitigate with the defense matrix and just have the Reaper bust people down. It's a good start, but profit-finding IDK gives them their mobility. Taking down that move speed. Obviously, the tanks still have high mobility, being able to dive forward, as Fitz does get hacked and eliminated by Architect. I might outwork it a little bit of damage, but it's going to have to be a recontest here for the Seoul Dynasty, as they will lose Bedosha now on the back end. And
they're just going to let it go,
I think. It's going to have to be, a concession rather, of point A, as they're just not in a position to try to capitalize and get back in. So it's going to be over 5.5 minutes now in the time bank for the Hangzhou Spark. Absolutely massive for them as they go into the street space.
Well, you mentioned it earlier, you get the hack on to you, and then he can't dematrix the damage that's coming out for Adorcia. Then they get onto the point, and then Gesture just can't contest. They can't win any trades. And on A is just going to be wonderful and brilliant. Now on the street space here, it's not going to be as effective. You're going to get outranged, you're going to get outpoked. Adora's going to have a hard time here. They're going to try to engage him, and you can see the teleport dive coming through here, basically. And it doesn't work out. Like, this falls flat on his face. And I think Adora's probably going to have to swap here.
Not at all how they wanted it to go, the nano dive, so lose out on that. Self-destruct over the top from QOQ, looks for a pick, but everybody peels back inside of the castle here off the rampart, so they do stay safe. So 2 ults kind of tossed in, but the card has been free moving for the time being, but this is around the time where things can start getting locked up.
Yeah, and Soul just can't let Adora walk up to, the end of the bridge and fight on B. You can't just walk up there. That can't be allowed to happen.
Goodbye. IDK just gets absolutely obliterated. Hack into the stomp, takes him down. the hack here onto Fitz, but he will be able to survive, and now they have this choke controls. The cart is just right around the archway. It's going to be a very dangerous position for the Hangzhou Spark to get held up. They do nearly have that Death Blossom EMP combo, now is ready to roll.
It's just so hard to execute
that.
that.
To break in.
Yep, hack onto Bob early in the fight. Architect looking for an EMP setup here, but Seoul Dynasty just aren't giving him the ground he needs, and the rest of his team is dying while he tries to get that perfect setup. I mean, Death Blossom is an ultimate that you can't rely on. You can almost never in professional Overwatch across the years, outside of like the Beyblade meta in 2016-17, like you could never rely on a Death Blossom being your initiation, your point of attack. If you're relying on that, especially when your opponent's got high ground like this, you know, you're running a risky composition. You're using a really risky style of play. And I think Hangzhou Spark should have considered swapping earlier. I mean, they have a huge time bank, but it's falling by the wayside quickly.
EMP does come through from Architect, only manages to find Prophet, who will be taken out pretty quickly, and Tuyu will not be allowed to remech. Gesture, however, half HP with the primal range as it gets ready to expire, jumps up here onto the high ground, recontests against Gushui, nearly gets the kill, forces the primal, but will be taken down by QOQ in the end. Hangzhou Spark looking like they will be able to break through here at the back end of this fight, as Gushui goes pretty deep into the back lines and has certainly overstepped. Let's get finished off.
Hey, look at Adora's position.
Above. Oh,
his position is... Yeah, he was up on the high ground there. And, I mean, he can use this ultimate to prevent Seoul Dynasty from regrouping. There's the nano.
He's out. Death Blossom, he's going to be pushing in, but everybody has already peeled away from him. So Death Blossom not going to be able to find too much, and he's not getting that much damage in. Now gets on top of Jester, who desperately tries to get over to the mini-pack, but even if he had found that, likely would have still fallen. The HP return on that is not too great. So the cart will be allowed to move up here into point B, with 3:45 remaining on the clock for the Hangzhou Spark. So it was a decent time buy here for the Seoul Dynasty. They certainly did chip away at that massive time bank that Hangzhou started with, but now it's all about denying a finish of the map. EMP is nearly there for Fit. They're going to have a bomb. They do have a couple delay tactics here to try and win a fight. The Struck, however, comes out first from QOQ. Everybody ducks around the corners, gets behind the pillars to keep themselves safe. The bomb goes in, but Gesture knocked up into the air. Let's get finished off. Good see there from Bebe. EMP now comes through. Fitz managing to catch the front line yet again, but everybody peels back. They wait out the EMP, and it's an absolutely huge one now from the side of Architect. Manages to find 4, and instantly 2 are going to be gone. Now 2 are going to be popped out of the mech as well before he can get that self-destruct online. And suddenly, really, like the Hangzhou Spark will just be able to roll in with a still very healthy time bank here.
Yeah, this is going to be insane.
Somebody's got to get there, but they can't. 256.
256. And Fitz's EMP, you could tell, I mean, it was actually, sometimes you get these moments in Overwatch observing that give you hints as to what's going on in comms, but because, you know, we don't know what's going on in comms, we don't have that in our ears right now. I mean, we can obviously get that later if we want to, but in that moment where we had Prophet's vision, or his first-person view, this is a really cool hack kill, you can actually see... You can actually see the way the Prophet's set up and where he's looking at, that when the EMP comes through, the Prophet was not expecting the EMP to be used like that. He wasn't in position to try to capitalize on hacked targets, get kills, even set up a dynamite. And Fitz just EMP'd clearly on his own. Either that or Prophet was trying to do his own thing, and the rest of the team was on the same page. By the way, there's a huge disconnect there between the DPS players on Seoul Dynasty. EMP comes through, and Prophet's like looking away and hiding back. He's not firing at anyone. It's a moment like that. You sometimes see glimpses in Overwatch observing of moments like this that, you know, you could see in Prophet's first person view of what he's looking at, that there's a coordination problem there. And Hangzhou Spark just have the counter EMP right afterwards and finish the map. Their EMP extremely well coordinated, and Reaper is a hero that is unforgiving. If Reaper gets on the point and gets into your backline, and your tanks can't peel for Reaper. Reaper will kill your tanks and then kill your backline. Yeah. We've got to be proactive as a hit scan player against the Reaper. It is going to be Reaper for the defense here for Hangzhou. Prophet, you know, he's been playing a lot of hit scan. He's coming up, you know, he's not coming up big this time, not in this series. He's not out poking the Reaper. He's not winning those trades like he needs to be in a matchup that's favored for Seoul. The Reaper is terrible against McCree, terrible against hit scan on high ground, and yet still Adora is able to close that gap every time. Prophet cannot let that happen.
Moves off the Ash, now goes in for the McCree. Gets the pan of the hammer on the back end of the flashbang there around the corner, but not enough to try and take down Gushwei. A nice sleep dart connects onto IDK to get the Bionade, but they need a little bit of follow-up damage to finish him off, and they're unable to find it, so he will be able to stay alive. Dora pulled back with a Wraith Walk. He joins in with the rest of his team. Moves up around that corner. 36 HP remaining. They'll start coming through. They can't finish him off. Prophet hacked. Has to back out and gesture. Left out the try, will be eliminated. Prophet strikes back, gets rid of both of the DPS members here for the side of the Hangzhou Spark, and that's going to be the go button now. Nice team matrix from QOQ will deny the headshot going in onto IDK, so keeps the Lucio in the fight as Prophet gets jumped on, has a sliver of HP and gets finished off. IDK striking back, finding some vengeance for nearly getting eliminated. The Seoul Dynasty are now going to have to reset. Almost got a first tick here on point A, but it doesn't work out in the end as IDK continues to frag out of control.
I mean, I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of Seoul Dynasty of their composition versus Reaper. If you're going to run the McCree, you need to slow push, give McCree sight lines, and just try to chip away. If the tanks commit in, you burst them down. If they don't, you chip away at the Reaper. Yeah. And Prophet dies again early, you know? And this is the end of this push. You're going to have to wait for a reset. And you could not be here in Primaling. I don't know about this one, Gesture. Oh
yeah,
my god.
A big question mark for me. Makes his way over. Point going to be contested at the moment of, minor little back cap coming through, but Gesture just lands, getting nothing done with the Primal Rage. They still had so much time. EMP now comes in from Architect. And just multiple members. 4 going to be hacked on the side of the Seoul Dynasty, and Prophet just gets eliminated by the solo bomb committing to the fight. Red will come in, but Dora drops straight on top of Bedoshin's head. Pops the Death Blossom, finds the kill. We are going into some weird backwards land right now, Wolf, as the fight is all over the place. The dive comes in from the tanks. They get rid of Prophet. Toby is going to fall, and I don't know what is going on anymore.
Well, I have to say we're seeing a very weak performance from Prophet right now.
What is this bizarre reality?
And when you see this is a weak performance on Prophet's McCree. I mean, when you fan the hammer a Reaper who you can't really kill unless you hit everything perfectly, you're just gonna wraith away. Like when that's your game plan, I'm like, why are you playing? Why aren't you just gonna play Mei then if that's what you want to do? Like, you gotta outrange him. They're so frustrated they've swapped themselves to the Reaper to try to get the mirror, but now they have the problem they're crashing into an EMP here.
Yeah,
this is almost checkmate for Seoul Dynasty.
They had to sleep there to try to set up for the Deadeye, but they get woken up. The defense matrix is there yet again. Now Architect has another EMP, throws that forward. EMP comes down, catches 3 members. Nano Boost was used by Bedoshin beforehand, however, on the Fitz. Gushwei goes into the back line. Dora gonna manage to take down Gesture moments before you get that Primal Rage online. Fitz will also fall, and suddenly it's 24 seconds left for the Seoul Dynasty as Prophet desperately tries to stay alive, but they are chasing him down, and it looks like
that's all she wrote.
Another full hold at the hands of the Hangzhou Spark. They get the fuller hold on Gibraltar, and now Seoul Dynasty, with a 62% win rate, I believe, on this map, are just gate kept inside the spawn. No one can leave. Prophet manages to get rid of Gushwei. Gesture makes his way over onto the point to force up the OT with the rest of his Primal Rage, but now he is by himself. He is focus fired, and somebody needs to tag. And I just don't think they're going to be able to do it, and they absolutely cannot. Hangzhou Spark pull off a 3-0 sweep over the Seoul Dynasty, and man, it wasn't even close.
It wasn't even close. I mean, that was just a really, really poor response to the Reaper, I have to say. Like, I'm a little bit disappointed with Seoul Dynasty on that last map, because after we saw Gibraltar, I thought, okay, this could be a close series. I want this to go a little bit further. I want to see some back and forth action. There were some problems with ult economy and some hard engages by Fitz. For example, the EMP I was talking about there on the defense that just totally failed. Prophet wasn't ready to capitalize on that. Time bank insane. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That can happen. You can mess up some team fights. We do sometimes see those big time bank finishes. But then when you're like when Prophet's on McCree and he's like trying to sneak up on a Dora and flashbang fan the hammer a Reaper, I'm like, no, that's what Reaper wants to be. He wants you to almost kill him, get healed by an Ana, then shoot you in the face. You want to be far away from the Reaper. You want to chunk him down. You want to poke him. You want to outrange him. Just seeing the way that was played and the frustration clearly on Seoul Dynasty, not Gushwei, sorry, Gestures weird Primal Rage on top of the late swap from Fitz onto the Reaper. I don't know. Seoul Dynasty, it was almost like they were just like, I'm done with this map. At some point, it felt that way.
There was so much just panic, it felt like, from this Seoul Dynasty there on Eichenwalde. And you could tell they roped themselves into a really poor position, because I understand the McCree Reaper setup to try and play the anti-dive, because they were constantly getting punished by Gushue, by QOQ, so they want to have that setup, but they have it reversed because they wanted Fitz initially on the Sombra. So that doesn't work out, so then he goes to the Reaper, but ideally you would want Fitz on the McCree and then Profit on the Reaper. He's got much more experience
it's a hero
playing
pool problem. It's a hero pool problem.
So they completely have this inverse of where they want to be with the composition, and even aside from that, the cohesion was just completely lost. I said earlier that the thing that you can't take away from Seoul Dynasty in their victories from last week was the cohesion that we saw in the coordination that they had brought and had leveled up in those games versus London Spitfire versus NYXL. We can't take that away from them, but clearly the Seoul Dynasty can take it away from themselves, because it was completely absent in this series. We're not really playing together at all.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Profit could play Sombra, then I feel like that would have been a non-issue, right? If Profit was a really good Sombra player, then Fitz could have played Ashe, Fitz could have played Widow even, or McCree. Fitz is a great McCree player, but they need a Sombra, so he has to play the Sombra. So suddenly you've got Profit, who's a flex player. I mean, he has had his moments on hit scan, especially last week. He had some great moments, and we were like, man, Profit's hit scan, don't forget. But today it was like, wow, I think we need a more experienced McCree player. Like, Fitz should have been on the McCree, but he couldn't be because Profit's Sombra is so poor that the Seoul will never run him on it, and that's a huge problem. I mean, that's a weak point exposed in this series that could affect playoffs, honestly, if the meta is similar to what we're seeing here.
Yeah, I mean, so the map streak now finished, the win streak taken away from them by the Hangzhou Spark. And we've ranted about, Seoul Dynasty and their shortcomings in this series enough. Let's go ahead and celebrate the winners, more specifically their player of the match on the side of the Hangzhou Spark, presented by Xfinity. Today, it is Gushue, who played a phenomenal series throughout, whether it was on the Winston, which we saw the majority of the time, or the Wrecking Ball. As brief as it was a brilliant sight to see.
Yeah, I can't believe we didn't get that Wrecking Ball kill from him on Ilios on the replays here. I mean, it was like just from the beginning, this guy was absolutely trashing on Marvel and Gesture in terms of the matchup. And it's made a lot easier when you have someone like Mika supporting you as well. And you don't always think of Mercy as pocketing a Winston, but Mika did a great job of keeping Gushue alive in a lot of these moments too. And I really enjoyed watching his play. I think Godspeed and Architect, though, honorable mentions for sure. Really nice DPS line from Hangzhou tonight. It was what you pointed out as you thought might be the reason why this match would be close, and not a 1-0 or a 3-0 from Seoul. It ended up being the opposite, and I think the DPS lineup was also a huge part of that.
Yeah, and that was, me giving too much credit to the Seoul Dynasty. And now looking forward, there's obviously one more match that has to be played for them. It's the lone match tomorrow versus London Spitfire. And if that's not another blowout series for the Seoul Dynasty, then you're going, it was like going up like this. Everybody's excited, like, oh my God, we're crushing. Look at this win streak we got going on. And then you're just going to tank it right back down into the ground for your potential playoff run if you cannot have a strong series there. Good job to the Hangzhou Spark. This was really concise. This is what we needed to see from them after they got 4-0'd at the end of the Countdown Cup. Seoul Dynasty, get your work boots on, sit down, start cramming for this test, because playoffs is around the corner. You've got that match versus London tomorrow, and it cannot be close for you. It cannot be a loss, or else everybody is just going to lose all hope. Man, what a series here. Great job for the Hangzhou Spark. We're not done yet, though. Aforementioned team, the London Spitfire, will be taking to the stage here in just a moment as they get ready to go up against the New York Excelsior, who are also looking to bounce back after their loss versus the Seoul Dynasty. So both of these teams suffering losses there. Now we'll see who can come out on top. So stay tuned. We'll have that second series coming up in just a bit.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Xfinity, the preferred internet provider of the Overwatch League. The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile. And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
也换掉了伦敦这里的前排，双方前排已经双双倒地，伦敦这边没有人可以扛。
公主不加，都不쳤어요。位置有一点点危险，左有奥丽莎，右有西格玛，马诺加上内内瞬间清掉对手4个人。끝내주고요。일반만 위치 확인됐고。와 파괴！
Alrighty, and we are back, and it is now time for our second and final series of the evening. London Spitfire getting ready to go up against the New York Excelsior to see who can put a win on the board. As I said just before the break, both of these teams most recently have suffered losses at the hands of the Seoul Dynasty. London twice, New York just the once, but all of them 0-3 losses for both of these teams. Now we're looking for a bit of redemption versus each other.
Yeah, I mean, these two teams used to be rivals in 2018. You know, the kings of regular season, New York Excelsior, London Spitfire ended up taking the title there. New York didn't get to go to the grand finals that was happening in the Barclays Center in New York.
Yep.
Last year, though, there was a big split, right? New York still kind of kings of regular season. London, a little bit inconsistent in the GOATS meta. And then this year, it's just no contest. I mean, you could see the below on your screen, the records for these two teams, 6-13 for London compared to New York Excelsior's 15-8. New York spent money, bought a lot of high-profile players, whereas London wanted to rebuild and restructure with some contenders, Korea players. And, you know, so far that hasn't really blossomed into the great team that London Spitfire might eventually become, but they're just not there yet.
Yeah, still trying to build up to that, trying to, you know, pull off the San Francisco Shock move and, you know, structure, you know, get that team coming together in one season and then hopefully take over in the next. Unfortunately, we're not seeing a whole lot of growth, actually a bit of regression from them as far as their performances here in the latter half of the 2020 season, but we'll see how they fare today versus New York. Let's go ahead and take a look at their starting six for the London Spitfire, though, because they do have one of the more shifting rosters overall compared to just about any team, I think, in the league. They have a lot more fluidity with their players.
Yeah, they certainly do. I mean, you never really know what roster you're going to get until you show up on the day as a spectator of the London Spitfire. But on the other side of things, I feel like you're never really disappointed by the London Spitfire rosters either. You never think it's not an A team and a B team. It's kind of reminiscent of Seoul Dynasty throughout a lot of the stages last year, where we saw big sweeping changes to the lineup. And, you know, you see Kleston in here over Bernard. That's, I think, the big strange one out of this. Kleston sees very little play time, but otherwise, everyone else on this list is pretty interchangeable. It's not a huge shock to see Glister and Babel on the team together. And I know a lot of people feel very strongly about Babel's Sombra play and his almost idealistic, I guess is the best way to put it, EMPs at times, where he holds EMPs so long because he wants the perfect EMP. He wants a 4 or 5 man EMP. People have been critical of him in recent times because of that. I think that's probably what we are going to see. Is we are going to see Ash from Glister. We're going to see Babel on the Sombra. You know, there's a chance that we see Babel playing Ash or Widowmaker or something like that. I mean, that's what he was playing most of the season when he was in. But he seems to be the Sombra player for London Spitfire right now. They are the underdogs going into the series. Maybe I'll cast her curse again. Who knows? But this one I feel like is even more cut and dry compared to like what we saw before. It was like Seoul should win, you think, but this is something else entirely, right? I mean, this is a matchup where if New York loses this, we have to really ask ourselves a lot of questions. But London is looking to upset, and maybe they can pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, it would be an absolutely huge victory for them if they could, and it would be a really bad sign for New York, you know, 2 back-to-back losses for them if that was going to be the case. But they're making some changes. We saw a lot of inconsistency from New York last week, especially around their DPS line. We saw Hotba come back in. We also saw Anamo step away. So there's a lot of changes. They're kind of going back to standard, but they're also bringing back a familiar face who we haven't seen in a while, and it's Sabe Yolby, the captain of this team, coming back starting for the NYXL.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are expecting to see Sabilby Sombra. His Sombra has been pretty consistent across the years. I mean, even back in 2018, he was a pretty solid Sombra player. Last year, you know, saw very little play until Sombra Goats was meta. That's when he came back, resurged himself on the roster, and he was absent for quite some time on New York. They were trying to run Nene's Sombra. And Nene's Sombra not bad by any means, but I feel like the consistency wasn't there, and it looks like Sabilby is coming back in now to kind of fit in that role. So Sabilby versus Babel, Sombra v Sombra, I think is going to be one of the big deciding factors on our control map, especially because control is often decided by who gets the first cap, who has the better ult economy, and Sombra makes it so much harder to catch up when you are that team that gets the second cap, if you even do. You know, sometimes it's 100-0 in metas like this, so. Yeah. That's going to be, I think, the really big deciding factor is how these Sombras match up against each other.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what is going to be going in alongside the Sombra if Sabilby is in fact going to be playing that, which seems highly likely. As we do have a Libero starting with him, it's not going to be Nene, so do we get more, you know, Libero McCree? Because oftentimes when he comes in, we've been seeing him play that, which is not something that he has been historically known for. So I'm curious to see what the DPS lineup exactly is going to look like, as well as what map that we are going to be seeing, because that could also allude to quite a bit. And I don't have the map list in front of me,
yeah, for example, if it is Busan, then I think there's a chance that we see Libero play like Reaper, or, you know, we might see some weird Mei strategy come through for a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, with Sabilby in the lineup, it's hard to assume that, but sometimes when you see Libero in the lineup, it's like, well, there's a weird pick coming. You know, it feels like sometimes, not every time, but sometimes. It's going to be Lijiang, though, so I think he will play a little bit of, you know, hit scan like Ashe, or sorry, long range hit scan like Ashe, but I think there's definitely potential for McCree. I was trying to like give you credit for saying the McCree pick earlier. That's what I was trying to do. It's late for me out here, okay? But yeah, I think we might see McCree.
Depending on which way you want to look at it. But I mean, as well, since we will be starting here outdoor on Gardens, this could lead to Libero perhaps playing something like the Echo or the Pharah. For now is hovering the Ashe, though. But
yeah,
we'll
this is
see if they're going to change this up at all.
This is what makes sense, I think, for this particular part of Lijiang. But I mean, something like a Pharah or Echo would be amazing to see. I mean, it's, you know, I think everybody's dream to see Libero on that hero on this map, but it's a little bit shocking. And Nene is kind of been thrown by the wayside here. I mean, if you're going to run Ashe and Sombra, I mean, you would think you would want to run Sabilby and Nene, right? But Libero in here means, sure, he's running Ashe now, but what does he run later? I think that's the big question that we should be asking ourselves right now.
Yeah. They will go ahead and start learning what London Spitfire has as far as their composition. As Sabilby makes his way over on a point, finds J-Mac around the back.
So tricky.
Will go ahead and finish him off. A great
he faked it out too.
Yeah, starts spamming that he needs some healing, which he will receive. And it looks like NYXL will be able to get the lockdown on the point here first and foremost, as the rest of London Spitfire just trying to stay alive here for the moment.
He shoots on one side and then wraps around the other and gets that kill there. It's actually pretty cool. I mean, you're not always going to get away with that, and, you know, who knows how much London Spitfire really read into that situation, but panned out pretty cinematically there for Sabilby, who's now got half of an EMP. Libero has free sightlines here on the London Spitfire members who are trying to come through. This is how you deal with the Reaper at range.
Well, he TPs forward, try to apply some pressure, but heal is very good for Libero, so they keep him alive. Are nearly falling. London on the point will be contested here by the tank line, by Sabilby as well, as he tries to farm up for the EMP. Hack goes out onto Hailey, now can't use the nano boost. Still onto the Ana. Can't go off in time, but it's going to be a Boostio coming in, and Sanguinar, I believe he intercepted it. Wasn't really low in HP from what I could tell, so
yeah,
I think he might have accidentally dove in front of this one. EMP comes through, clips Sanguinar, clips J-Mac. The cleanup will be there, and YXL looking for the extended Team Whiteman. There you have it. We'll be able to get it as they maintain control of the point.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a tragedy, too, because I think London Spitfire definitely could have won that fight if the nano boost was on a correct target. Because in the extremely extended fight, they were going to have an EMP, but Glister got to the point finally, right? And that's when things get really hard for New York Excelsior's composition, where Libero doesn't have sightlines anymore. The Reaper is going to do that max amount of damage. The tanks can't do much. They got an EMP. That's the one thing they got. I mean, they have an EMP now, and they used New York's. They forced New York's in the last fight, so there's a chance here.
EMP comes through, solo on the Mono. Bionade is there. They're trying to finish him off in battle. He'll be able to get the kill in the end. Fire the rest of them over here on the point as the TP comes into the back. So start from Jonak, not going to be able to connect, but Glister not really in a position to take anybody down yet. Push forward here from Manama with the Valkyrie, just trying to keep everybody alive, but there's too much damage to keep Bianca in the mech, so he does get knocked out, and London Spitfire do manage to find the flip here. As the Primal Rage comes out, and Sanguinar gets a very nice loop onto Jonak. Mono pops the Primal, however, the bomb going to be invested as well over towards the point. He moves out on the Winston. A trade comes through as J-Mac does fall. Rest of NYXL now respawning, trying to make their way back over onto the point where they're still fighting this one out. He ducks around the corners, the bomb doesn't get much damage in. They stay safe and they still maintain control of the point. Now the self-destruct going to be tossed out. Libro's got nowhere to go, so we'll get taken down by the bomb. Seems like London might be able to just keep extending this fight in their favor as Jonak barely survives.
Yeah, New York do not want to let this go, though. They want to force this EMP fight. St. Bilby's almost there to get the kill on Highly.
Bilby finds Sanguinar as well, so now without support, without those ultimates, the EMP comes up from St. Bilby, but Glister pops the Death Blossom to take him out. Pushing forward, the answering EMP from Babel is absolutely huge. 3 other members of New York, the cleanup is there, and London Spitfire persevere. YXL very much overcommitting to the fight.
It's so strange, too, because they forced this crazy fight just for St. Bilby's EMP when they should have known Sanguinar probably going to have Sound Barrier available at that moment to deal with it anyways. They could have just set up for a good EMP fight, a safe one. I don't think St. Bilby's EMP even hit anybody because it was so chaotic.
Yeah, maybe just one person didn't quite get to see. Nano boost onto J-Mac though, as Cleston will just get hacked naturally by St. Bilby, who's trying to build up for that next EMP. That's needed pretty soon here. Sound Barrier popped by Sanguinar. Bionade on Glister doesn't really mean much. J-Mac racking everybody around, manages to take down Jonak. Moving him down, but Mono answers in kind, finds Kylie. So a trade out on the Honest, the exact same situation. Now Sanguinar gone means no support here for the London Spitfires. They get ready to go into overtime. And YXL going to be taking control of this point. Starting at 97%. Somebody from London has the tag. It's going to be Custom's job. He makes his way in, but gets knocked out of the mech. It was 9% away from that self-destruct, so cannot make his way back in. Nobody else can follow up on the point. It's a bit of a bittersweet moment here for London Spitfire. Was looking pretty good. Took it up to 99%, but then cannot keep the fight going for a chance at another flip.
Yeah, I mean, it was very back and forth. There were definitely good moments on both sides. I feel like St. Bilby, despite that botched engage with the EMP that we saw, you know, his next charge of EMP was insanely fast. Like, he was up so quickly. This is that boost. See, he doesn't actually hit his target, the target he wanted there. Ends up hitting the Lucio. I was looking for the Reaper, I think, just based on where that crosshair was, but anyway, St. Bilby played a really good Sombra. He had fast EMP charge. But it's the biggest takeaway for me, that's the most interesting thing, is we're seeing Reaper again. A lot of teams are messing around with Reaper right now, and it's, you know, it leads to really different matchups and different ways of playing Overwatch. So I'm liking to see some more diversity here.
Bro pushing pretty far up here. Turns his attention to the front line of the London Spitfire. Go ahead and have to start peeling back, though. Coach Gun comes through. He's still under fire, but will be safe for the moment. Gets the dynamite in on the Cleston just to build up for a little bit of extra charge towards that bomb. Falling a bit further behind. Point going to be locked down by the NYXL. The push from Bianca there just stops the tank line from pushing forward to keep that contested, so they go ahead and get on the board. Bionade slows up London as they wait for this next approach.
Yep. New York, you know, right now they're just going to try to stall this out. Playing very far forward. Mono needs to be careful. If he gets slept here by Highly, if he's overextended, we'll just die.
Manos on the J-Mac. Pushing forward. Sleep Dart comes out from Jonak. Shuts him down. Making sure they get absolutely no value whatsoever out of that ultimate. Meanwhile, Mono really profiting in the back line.
Mono's such a good Winston player. He's so good at Winston. I mean, he's good at Reinhardt too, but overall, I feel like he never gets a proper credit, but Mono doesn't, for his really nice Winston play. His ability to chase, how he uses leaps to secure kills is very, very surgical oftentimes. You make one mistake and your team has to retreat, and Mono's the one who's going to rack up another Primal Rage while also preventing those players from getting out and getting those stagger kills.
Jonak pinched by the tanks. The Bob comes out in response. A bit of damage there from that self-destruct as they look for a knockoff here off the side of the map onto Libero. And they will be able to find it in the end. J-Max ended up sailing over the side of the map. The attack will keep him alive for a little bit longer. The heals start to come through. EMP out, finds Bianca, but Biobi, he manages to find 3, but you don't see the capitalization coming through from the rest of the NYXL. So London Spitfire just managed to go ahead, push onto the point, take that for themselves. So EMP, a bit of a waste here now for New York. Gonna have to start from scratch to build up a new one.
Exactly. Now it's a race for EMP between these two teams. If they had held that EMP, they actually have, you know, 3 other major ultimates that could come back in for a very fast flip, especially because London used so many ultimates to get that retake. But without it, you know, it's not like it's impossible for New York to win this fight without EMP, but it would have been a kind of a shoo-in if they had it. So they have to play a little bit more safely here and look for a nano boost engage.
Nano's out. Jonak not really even paying attention to J-Mac there for the moment. Slows the Bionate down at his feet. As the flip comes in, there, NYXL kind of taking the point out from underneath the London Spitfire's noses, and now are looking for the rest of the fight victory. Corner comes in onto Hailey. He's got nowhere to go. Mono just juggling people. Comes up with yet another kill onto the supports. Breaks them down. London, cheekily, gets a recap here as J-Mac comes back through with the primal rage of his own, but it will expire. He takes a bit of damage, but just rejoins. They concede the point. They get a little bit of extra percentage, but now NYXL have them forced into a corner. One fight territory here for the London Spitfire, who desperately need to get this flip if they want to take us to a 3rd round.
New York have the positional advantage here. Very risky move here from Sabilly, but he wants that last part of the EMP. They're going to collapse in with Mono.
Bionate will keep him alive. Glister gets a headshot on the crossfire. Taking him out. Babel nearly with an EMP ready to go. Could use this to get the flip as Biobi will be coming back into the fray. Thankwood are going to be taking that.
Oh, take it out!
Loses out on the EMP in the middle of the cast. Libero finds the shot, who's been a very good Ashe thus far in this series. Shuts down Babel. They get absolutely nothing for that ult, and the OT will bleed away very rapidly, meaning that NYXL take Lijiang Tower 2-0. A very close first round on Gardens, but coming in the night market, NYXL level up their play, and they shut down London.
Jonak played an incredible game as well. Like Jonak and Mono look really, really good. Sabilby seems to be a more consistent Sombra right now than Nene was when he was playing in weeks previously. I think that might have even been a sleep dart to set up the shutdown on the EMP there from Jonak. It sounded like that's what happened, but he died so fast, it's hard to know. New York doesn't really have a good grasp on where London are trying to position themselves, how to punish that, how to chase and get those like stagger kills. Words weren't coming to my brain there. Stagger kills is what Mono's been getting a lot of. Like you mentioned in the team fight, with Jonak just completely ignoring the pressure that was on him. I mean, they were even committing Cleston on top of Jonak because they're like, I don't want him to bio himself. And then he just survived anyways, and everybody else that was in that position wasn't there to peel for the rest of the London Spitfire. Mono was engaging. New York just seemed to be getting the better end of every single trade right now, and I don't know if that's going to change.
Yeah. Controlled chaos is kind of what it seemed like there from the NYXL. They were split up at times, but you know, Jonak is basically just eating all his damage from the entire tank line of the London Spitfire. Meanwhile, they're capping the point. Jonak survives. They come back in. He nanos Mono. He goes into the back line, and he helps take down both supports. So it was really good spread out play from the NYXL. We'll see if they can maintain that or if the London Spitfire can make things a little bit closer as we get ready to go into Escort. I didn't quite catch what map it is, but we'll find out in just a few minutes when we come back after the break, so stay tuned.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor.
And we are back. All right, map 2 getting ready to come up now in this series between the London Spitfire and the New York Excelsior, the latter of whom have been able to take the first map. Lijiang Tower goes their way 2-0, and it's not looking good for London.
No, not really. It's not terrible by any means, and I mean I liked how they are playing the game. I like that they played a little bit of Reaper as well. Like they're not just going to run a mirror into New York, who seems to be better coordinated, and obviously these players have way more experience. I mean, if you go back to the Apex days, sure, whatever, but you can even add their on-stage experience in Bala and Overwatch League in 2018. Homestand, some of these players have been to, because London barely played any of the homestands even at the beginning of this year, and then didn't start regular season until late. So it was just these players didn't get experience the way they were supposed to this year as well, just because of everything else that's going on. Obviously, I don't need to say any more, but I like that they're trying different things. The Reaper in particular was, I thought, pretty well executed. New York knew how to handle it, and New York's response was good. But London have these moments, where you could see that there's a clear plan, and the coaching is good. But you can't just teach brilliance and experience. That just comes with time. And in a matchup like this one, New York has all the cards. It feels like they have all the advantages. Yeah, I mean, just fairly one-sided after that first round. New York, they got the point effectively on night market and just didn't really let go of it. There was a couple little slip-ups there where London kind of took it out from underneath of them, but New York just as quickly got it back under their control, and we're just wreaking havoc. Like I said, controlled chaos kind of was the style there. Mono constantly off on his own, just receiving the nano boost, going in. Didn't really need much follow-up to assist him in, picking up kills. He would have, say, Bjolby alongside him from time to time. They'd scoop the kills in the back line and just carry on. It was just business as usual for them. London now, though, looking to stabilize as we get ready to move into Route 66 for our escort map in this series. They're going to have a strong performance here. Perhaps they can tie us up. Both of these teams prior to this on their longest loss streaks ever in the history of their organizations. London still going, still unfortunately tacking more numbers on top of that, but New York have finally broken that. But can they get the win is still the question. There's the question here. London Spitfire continue to run Cleston. Zarya, you could see banned this week and last week as well, but I think that's one of the big reasons why we're seeing Cleston over Bernard. Bernard is, from the start of his career, was a Zarya player, and obviously when Zarya fell out of favor, Bernard fell out for a while. Obviously he went to North America, played for Philly's academy team. But we're seeing a lot of D.Va now. Cleston's kind of picked up the mantle on this one. There's no Sigma really to be seen either. So I don't want to judge Cleston too harshly, and I'm not trying to either. I'm not trying to say we should see a sub here or anything like that. I want to just kind of keep an eye on him in this series to see how he performs, because we have seen some new rising D.Va stars like Tuyu kind of pop up here in the APAC region that we haven't seen too much of.
All right, well, with the forward hold here, London Spitfire, let's see how long they can maintain this for. Glister's just going to be situated here on the high ground, getting the damage boost rolling in from Fuse, not base.
Yes.
He's taking some hot shots here where he can. You'll be going to be forced back into the spawn room with the translocator, but London Spitfire will go ahead and pull away from this forward hold. As Libero will be swapping off of the Widowmaker and back over onto the Ashe.
Yeah, Ashe is just a safer pick in this case, and it can really help peel against the tanks a lot better. The cart rolls around this corner. J-Mac needs to be careful if he's looking for a Mercy pick here, but I don't know about that.
Fuse taken low there, but the heals do come through, so he'll be unable to find the kill. Anama will get the res on the Mono to put him back in the fight. After Glister got a nice little shot onto him. J-Mac
he gets a nano
boost
time.
in mid-leap. For Anamo, took the Mercy low. Ionate goes out onto Jonak, but it's going to be Highly who's the first Ana to die. J-Mac does manage to find the stomp kill here as things start getting a bit chaotic. Glister under some fire, under some pressure, 8 HP remaining, jumps back with a coach gun, gets the dynamite, plays it perfectly! That was gorgeous from Glister. He shuts down Yolby, who thought he had that kill
What a play!
hand.
What a play!
Brilliantly done.
I mean,
like
Yolby So Saebelby probably could have chased a little bit deeper earlier on before he went into that hole, but I mean, that was basically perfectly played from Glister from start to finish. That was the best way he could have escaped. Now, Babel has this EMP. London Spitfire have a way to really shut down New York's push here and start to gain bigger advantages. Saebelby staying hidden. He wants to be the first one to pull the trigger if possible.
Waiting for his moment. He gets slept. He doesn't use the EMP, so he's not slept out of it, but then gets hacked in the follow-up EMP there from Babel. Also clipped Mono, who is bionating in the back tunnel to take him down. J-Mac rejoins with the rest of the squad after using his Primal Rage, and so far, things are looking rather good here for the London Spitfire. Saebelby, crucially, like we said, does still have that EMP. Didn't get slept out of the channel, so they still have an opportunity to break through here and get point A, but the time bank is going lower and lower, now down to 1.5 minutes for New York.
And they don't have any staying power for Mono. I mean, he has his Primal, but he's not going to have a Nano Boost. That's a big problem for completing A when the respawns are going to be coming through for the Spitfire. They need this EMP for the engage. Blister's down.
Res coming out from Fuse, but he will be forced away. Get the hack on the Mercy, the self-destruct out from Kleston, and he cannot remech. Bianca shuts that down. Cart will now start moving forward here for New York as Mono scouts forward.
60 seconds.
Waits in behind them. You can see, though, J-Mac in that little silhouette through the wall. He's ready for the recontest. They'll push their way out. Saebelby might yet just be able to shut this down. EMP will come through, catches two. Babel and J-Mac both going to be hacked. The Bionade goes out onto the Winston. He'll fall low, pops the bubble to try and stay alive, and actually will be allowed to survive. And then Nano Boost comes in. Now Saebelby's going to be gone. Glister gets a headshot onto Anamo, and suddenly, with 34 seconds left to go, 2.7 meters away, New York Excelsior might not be able to finish this map. They have used everything.
Yeah, they might not. They used everything. They have no EMP. They're going to have a Nano Boost, but it's not going to lead to Mono getting a Primal Rage. It's just too far away because he used it in the previous fight. Now, Glister has full line of sight control. There's no threat of an EMP, so they don't have to position themselves around it. That's the other thing, too. It's not even just about the fact that they're worried about getting hacked. They just know that they can play where they want. Saebelby just uses EMP. It's impossible for him to have another one.
This fight goes on for a really long time, but I don't think that's going to happen. J-Mac slept here for the moment. When he wakes up, does have the Primal Rage available. Mono in the back line trying to find a pick. Saebelby already going to be forced away as he was nearly finished off. Glister gets a headshot on the Jonak. Anamo in the sky now with the Valkyrie, trying to keep the rest of the team alive, but Libero will fall as Babel now has an EMP ready to go. So I think they have absolutely done it, barring a miracle here for the NYXL. EMP comes out onto the tank. Bianca immediately demeched as J-Mac tries to tussle here with Mono. To help Babel, they will finish him off, and London Spitfire look immaculate at the start of Route 66. A full hold over NYXL. Is, though, this going to be a situation like we saw from our previous series where the fuller hold comes through? I'm going to say
it's
no.
Certainly possible.
I don't think it's going to happen.
It's certainly possible, but yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so either. Just give me that sleep onto Saebelby where he didn't EMP. He was actually slept out of a hack. It looks like just a right-click hack. And it's just immediately followed up on. Get the EMP. But, yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think we're going to see the fuller hold here. Not on Route 66. I mean, on Gibraltar you see that sort of thing sometimes, but Route 66 is a different kind of beast. For London Spitfire here, the game plan is just going to be to play around EMP team fights and Nano Boost. All they really need is 2 team fight wins. 2, you know, dominant team fight wins, not like a slight edge. But if you can get those 2, you just win the map. So you're going to play safe. You're going to force Saebelby to EMP first if you can, and then come in where you don't have to trade those EMPs. That's going to be the game plan. I don't think Glister's going to be able to just get all insane. What, he got like a 4K, I believe it was, there to kind of close things out. Like, I don't think he's going to be able to have that same sort of success as the attacking Ashe, because he won't have the same line of sight. But if somehow they control Big Earls and he gets on the high ground, I mean, he certainly can have a fish in the barrel moment. Excited to see how this one pans out here, because Glister is looking so good when he gets those opportunities.
Yeah, a great turnaround now that he is back on his Ashe. So see what kind of start London can have here to this push. Saebelby just jumping back with that translocator, and it looks like the NYXL overall will go ahead and pull back over to Big Earls. Very nice shot from Libero. They'll shut down Glister, but Fuse should be able to get the res, and there it is. Bubble used to help protect, so they put him back in, but it seems like this always happens. You res a DPS and then you instantly lose a tank. So now have to wait for JMac.
Yep. You can see the difference in sightlines obviously allowing for that kill to come through from Libero. I mean, Glister couldn't have won that trade. Just isn't going to work that way. Walk into a crosshair at the highest level of play. But still, the cart rolls forward. They have to be careful about overcommitting here. Babel in serious trouble. There's the peel. I was going to say, that was actually looking nasty for a second there.
He's trying to stay ahead of Sigilby. So far, it's working out for him. That's an
Nano
nano boost
committed.
onto Mono. As JMac will go ahead and leap away. Mono pushing forward. Would love to get Kleston out of that mech, but cannot do so. Crucially, uses the leap to exit to safety before the hack comes in. No chance of getting that punished, and the Dynamite going to be consumed here by Bianca on the high ground. Shoves them back, stops them from contesting as Glister gets hacked. The follow-up is good. Glister Q's now highly all going to be falling as Mono goes in deep with the Primal Rage, looking to knock some people off the side of the map.
I feel like if Mono didn't commit the Primal here, like I feel like if he didn't commit Primal in this fight and they had it for the next one, you know, that JMac's gonna have his own Primal for, I feel like, you know, we could start talking about, like, is New York gonna do this? Like, are they actually gonna get the fuller hold? But without that ultimate, I'm really worried for them because London Spitfire is going to have their own nano boost and their own Primal. Like, they have such a large health pool that's about to crash into New York who don't yet have that EMP. So, tiny window of time here. If Sabilby does get an EMP before they engage, though, everything can change. Bob's out first for Libero to buy time.
Chucks that one in. Self-destruct comes out from Kleston, throwing that one rather into the back, but doesn't find any picks. Can't get Bianca desuited.
Ooh, the
headshot
shot
from Glister sets it up. Sabiel going to be taken out of the fight. Suddenly the EMP going to be gone, but Anamo does res him back in. Absolutely could bring that ultimate into the fray. JMac hacks the nano boost used from Highly to try to keep him alive. Goes in, he's looking for the supports, just can't quite stick to them to finish them off. Bianca self-destruct will find Babel, who still holds onto an EMP of his own. Things start getting a little bit messy. Babel crucially holds on to the EMP. Nobody from New York has an ultimate ready to go, so it might just be that single ultimate that allows for London Spitfire to win this map.
It could be, but they're going to have to regroup first, and, you know, in the longer fight, as long as Jonak keeps Mono topped up, he's going to have a Primal Rage, he's going to be able to delay. With no other ultimates online here, I mean, unless Glister gets a great headshot, I don't know if this EMP alone is going to be enough for London Spitfire to push that through those final meters to win the map. This EMP is going to be how they have to start it, but look, Mono's already got that Primal 3% away. As long as he doesn't get caught by this EMP, if he's not clipped, he's going to have it no matter what. He's actually just going to engage first.
As well. Yeah, Primal comes out. He already finds Highly. The EMP is going to be used by Babel, but it's a solo here onto Mono. That's all that they can get with it. Now that it's going to be gone, Babel taken down. Libero finds the headshot. There's a couple seconds remaining, and somebody's got to tag the cart. So far, it is completely uncontested. The Bob gets rid of Glister. Kleston is desuited, finished off. They will touch in to force out the overtime, but then JMac falls, and I think that I have now cast her curse here, Wolf. I have indeed. NYXL, they do pull off the fuller hold. It's exactly like we saw in our first series.
I mean, incredible plays from Mono. Incredible plays from Mono. He's lapping JMac in terms of the Primal Rage build. He's getting these insane cleave damage moments. I don't know what to call it. He's just getting these insane value out of his cleave damage in a lot of these fights. But he made the choice. He made the call to Primal first. You know, a lot of players would wait for EMP, try to hide, don't get clipped by the EMP, then use the Primal to buy time, knock people around, get heals from Jonak. No, I'm going to kill Highly. He was up on the high ground. He saw where Highly was. He was like, no, I'm actually going to try to solo kill with Primal Rage, not for survivability, but actually try to just murder Highly. I'm going to dive in and knock him off the side. And if Highly sleeps him, by the way, he dies, he gets hacked, he dies, and like London probably finishes the map. He takes an insane risk, but he calculates it, goes in, makes the call. That's a really, really smart player. That's a player who's able to identify when to go in. That was a beautiful moment. I mean, that might be but depending on what happens in the next map and the rest of the series and what happens tomorrow, that might be the moment I remember most from this weekend of play. I already feel that way. Hey, Mono for player of the match, man. Mono for president. The guy is killing it.
You'll remember that Primal, but I'm going to unfortunately remember Gestures on Eichenwalde. That one's going to stick through my nightmares. But yeah, Mono is looking very good right now, which is phenomenal to see, and a big boon for the NYXL, because this guy is at times almost putting the team on his back, even though the rest of the team isn't playing poorly. They're playing super well. They pull off that fuller hold here on Route 66 to now move up to 0. And that's got to be soul-shattering, for London Spitfire, who have to feel so good after getting that full hold, and then to get shut down like this. It can be really difficult to try and bounce back from that situation. They now need to pull off a reverse sweep. Again, they've got a little bit of time to try and get settled, to try to get their heads in the game, to pull that off, as we do have a game break coming up. So when we return, Wolf and I will be talking through and probably just praising Mono and the rest of the NYXL a little bit more. So stay tuned. Game break coming at you in just a bit.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Alrighty, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's now time for our game break, presented by Cheez-It Grooves. This is feeling like deja vu, Wolf. We are yet again here at the game break. It is 2-0 up after a fuller hold on Escort. This time, New York Excelsior, the ones looking to close out a series with a 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, it is really reminiscent of our previous series, and we even had the fuller hold on Escort. Yep. I think the big difference is this time the favorite to win it is crushing it. It's not, I mean, it's not like Hangzhou was a huge underdog or anything like that, but we expected Seoul to have a really good time in that series, and yeah. I was even saying so far so as I thought my official prediction was a 3-0 for Seoul, but in this case, it feels like New York is just one step ahead of London, even when London has a great hold. They get the full hold, even when they have ult advantages, even when they have an EMP going to the last fight, Mono turns things around and makes a risky play, but it's a brilliant play. And New York, I mean, they just have that experience. They're veterans. They are all veterans. Even Bianca has traveled and played and done more in offline tournaments than most of the players on London Spitfire. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. And it's hard to play, against a team like New York and really be hyper-focused on that when you have a match tomorrow as well. And you also have playoffs coming up that you're probably really more concerned about than you are these last 2 regular season matches. So I can't really fault London, you know? I mean, we can't really say, like, wow, London, what a terrible performance, because it hasn't been a bad performance. And it's a match that how much are you really preparing for this one compared to the one tomorrow and the playoffs that are coming up? It's hard to say.
Yeah, well, that being said, it is now time for our crunch time, as per usual, presented by Cheez-It Grooves. So I'm going to let you take the floor on this one, Wolf, because I have something in my eye. So I'm going to step over here real quick and take care of that.
Okay, well, let's talk about this series, because when we go into the 3rd and potentially 4th and 5th maps here, I want to see London Spitfire really hone in on and focus in on Glister. He's been the highest impact player for their team so far. We're seeing a lot of really big moments for Glister, where he's getting these headshot kills, he's peeking, he's taking different sightline angles that we're not seeing New York able to respond to every time, and getting kills on oftentimes even enemy Sombras. Say Bilby getting picked sometimes. So I think you really have to double down on Glister here if you're London Spitfire and play to his strengths, try to set him up to do well. Even maybe run a comp that lets him play, Widowmaker. Try to do something different, because if you're just going to run Ashe versus Ashe, and Sombra versus Sombra, I mean, even if Glister does well, it doesn't matter, because Hylie isn't going to perform as well as Jonak. Bono's going to crush JMac, and it's like you can't fight fire versus fire here if you're London Spitfire right now, and I think they somehow have to play to Glister's strengths if they want to come back in this series. If they don't want to win, if they just want to challenge New York, if they want to learn, if they want to take this as like okay, we're gonna lose this series, but like how much can we? It's almost turned the series into like this enhanced high pressure scrim. You could almost look at it that way too, but I don't think they want to look at it that way. I think they want to turn this around and win it. And I think Glister has to be the player they focus on to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, he has been the one in the past. When London kind of started surging up and everybody started having a lot more faith in this roster to perform and to contest with some of the top teams in the APAC region, it was on the back of Glister, mostly while he was playing Tracer, but obviously not in the pool for this week. And it's even then, when he has been running the Tracer in the past weeks, it hasn't been as successful as that peak that we saw from him. But I do agree. We saw some phenomenal moments from Glister there. On Route 66, he was one of the big reasons why they were able to get that full hold. Unfortunately, just wasn't enough for them to try and get across that finish line. But now it's do or die time. If they want to pick up this win, they got to start here with this next map coming up on Hybrid. Try to get the ball rolling to pull off a reverse sweep, but it's such a tall order for them. We'll see if they can manage it when we come back from the break. So stay tuned, guys, while the rest of this series coming up in just a few.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch. The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile. And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
All right, and we're back. It's time to get on with the rest of this series, which might not last very long. This might just be a pretty quick day here, Wolf, so you can get some rest back over on the East Coast of North America, because NYXL currently up 2-0. Very dominant performance from them thus far, and I just don't know if London Spitfire is going to be able to break this hold that NYXL has on the series so far.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen. The other thing too that we didn't really talk about in our game break was that the next map is Numbani, which has historically been a very good map for New York and a very good map for Mono's Winston. Because of how the choke point works on A, for example, and how much impact Primal Rage can have on Numbani on A as well. It's a really good map for their playstyle, how they're playing Winston right now. It's a good map for Sombra, so Sanguinar's coming back in, it looks like.
Yeah.
This is one of those London subs where you're like, okay, we could probably just say it's mostly inconsequential, but because FaZe wasn't playing badly, and Sanguinar wasn't playing badly before, and they played the same hero, so it's not really a big deal. But overall, I think this is going to be a tough map for London. So, again, I hope they empower Glister. I hope they, or they try something different, try to run some sort of Reaper defense or a Torbjorn defense or something like that. So do something like that. Or die to New York's superior playstyle and experience. It's like,
why not both?
Those are your options.
It could just
you're
end
onto
up
something.
being both.
You're onto something with that.
That's the unfortunate circumstances that London Spitfire find themselves in, is that they can't really be allotted too much faith as of late because of this massive map loss streak that they have found themselves on, and doesn't look like there's an end in sight. It seemed that way on Route 66, but after the turnaround, you can't have that much more faith for them on Numbani, especially after, as you said, considering how well New York has historically performed on this map and how much this does play to, their verticality and aggression with the Winston.
You remember when Bastion was meta?
Yeah, and I remember when Sabiolbi was playing the hell out of it.
Yeah.
That was a weird time.
Let's all just be glad that's not how Overwatch is played anymore. I see Libero lock it in, and I'm like, get that off my screen.
Something tells me we're not going to be having that one come through. But
the good old
stranger things have happened.
The good old Sombra Wrecking Ball Diva Bastion dive.
Why not? Maybe we're actually not going to be... okay, all right, we're going...
Double shield,
through.
double shield's not bad here. With the Mei.
Changing it up, though. Do they want to go for the mobile double shield? No, okay. We'll flip back. Maybe go on a little bit of a scouting mission here from, say, Bjolby and try to hear back as far as what they're running. But seems like they got the call and things are good, so... we'll just be back to basics here. The mirror composition coming through.
Yeah, New York's like, I guess we'll just play meta.
Ooh.
Half sad.
Whoa. Oh.
He dodged the spy check. That was
hello.
Cool.
Took him a while to pop out of that stealth. Does translocate back over into the spawn. We'll just get top back up. So good dominance asserted there from Babel. As J-Max like, I'm not even gonna play around this corner. Just instantly drops down. That's the call. Some damage got pushed out on Bianca. So.
Really nice look for London here so far, though. The delay is good. The dynamite comes through from Glister. Look at Glister popping again.
Yeah, that's Bianca taken down. So really good focus fire coming in. The Bionade flipped onto 3 there. J-Mac does fall. New York, can they push this now? The res is out. So in all likelihood, maybe not. But Jonek with a very fast build on the nano boost. Tosses that out onto Mono. Trying to pressure highly. Pops that bubble down. Dart not going to connect. Gets that kill. But will get punished. Highly got the final tag in right before them. So does get eliminated. But the res is going to be good from an Amo. So puts Mono back into the fight. And then NYXL should be situated on the point now as J-Mac goes down again. So yeah, starting to tick up. And now the question is, can the London Spitfire find an opportunity to try to recontest this? Looks like they're still going to look to go for it. Yeah, the Bob comes out. Safeguard didn't connect on the Klesson, but gets woken back up very quickly, but the point is still not being contested. They finally start to inch their way back over onto that corner, but already 2 ticks going to be going over to the side of NYXL. Bianca's going to be demeched as an ammo. Goes up into the air with a Valkyrie. Push forward, J-Mac with a nano boost. Looking to take down that Baby Diva. Will finally finish off Bianca as Libero got the headshot there from Glister. Rez comes in, puts that Ashe back into the fight. The EMP used by Sabiobi finds the tank line, but the follow-up is not there. This is suddenly very winnable for the side of London Spitfire. Bob goes in onto the corner. J-Mac comes back around the side. And will continue to contest as they get the cleanup here. So they give up 84% or so here, but they manage to hold them off.
Glister might lap Libero and get a second Bob here. He's doing so well. I mean, we could talk about a lot of things here, and Sabiobi's late and unnecessary EMP is definitely one of them, but Glister is popping off. You know, this is the kind of player where London, you better pay him a lot next year. I don't know how many years contract his London contract was, but I can guarantee you a lot of top teams are probably looking at this player right now, trying to steal him away. He's just missing these, unfortunately.
Another strong defense here for them. EMP comes out as they jump onto the high ground, catches the tanks, catches Sabiobi. Sabiobi tries to build up for another EMP. Glister with the Bob, gets rid of Jonak. Bob continues to chip away at some of the other members here of the NYXL. Nanabu's out onto the Ashe as well. J-Mac dropping down, finds an ammo. The cleanup's there onto Libero. And I'm starting to question, do we have another full hold onto NYXL here now on Nabani?
Imagine if Sabiobi had an EMP for that fight, you know, things could have looked very different. But because he tried to turn that last fight, which was, you know, I think it was unreasonable to expect to happen, but it was almost reasonable to expect to happen, so we could forgive him for that. But he's got one now. Last fight could have been different. He's got one now. Sanguinar has Valkyrie. Otherwise, London Spitfire are just going to have to survive long enough to get that Primal. The Primal is their saving grace here. If they do hold, New York does have this big ultimate to close out that final tick.
With a couple seconds left to go, the EMP comes out, does clip both of the supports. Sanguinar trying to stay alive, going to be hacked on the back end. It's taken rather low. Point nearly capped, but here's the turnaround again. Bianca gone. Sabiobi eliminated. The res starting to come through, and New York just cannot stay situated on the point. It's a full hold again at the hands of the London Spitfire.
Well, I mean, by the hands of Glister as well. I mean, the guy is... He is carrying hard. The fact that he had a Bob, his first Bob was when Libero was at like 53% of his ult, and then his Bob was what delayed London's first, or rather New York's first cap, because they almost got that full cap there the first time they took over the point. The fact that Glister had Bob gave London another chance to contest and delay. And then, you know, you see him in the kill feed, and you see the London Spitfire colored arrows. You know, these are headshots he's hitting. You know, it's not just like he's spamming and getting lucky and getting these kills. New York's overextending. No, he's just insanely accurate. And while under pressure, while Mono's threatening, while Bianca's diving in his face, you know, he's coach gunning his way back and picking off someone in the back line. He just doesn't miss. And if you know, it's one of those moments where you look at the player and you think, what if he was on a different team? You know, what if like Seoul Dynasty had Glister and Fitz, you know, in some of these moments, for example. I mean, yeah. So there's a lot of ways for this to get, you know, there's a lot of ways to think about Glister, but like, he's the best player on his team right now, especially today.
Yeah. By far has been really showing up. 84% is what the London Spitfire need to get to in order to get on the board. See how they fare on this attack. Sabiobi slinking around the backside, just scouting out. Looks like he's not going to be going for a hack. Starts pressing forward again, though. Waiting for his opportunity. Getting J-Mac on the leap in would be huge for him. Instead, it's going to be Mono who commits in for the fight. Bionade comes out, takes him rather low. He's trying to exit. There's a lot of damage being pushed out onto the Winston, but they do manage to keep him alive. He comes back up over onto the high ground where J-Mac is trying to do the same. Gets us around the bubble for now, getting a bit of damage in onto Bianca where possible. Lister is gone. That's the carry eliminated from the fight. And right now, the back line under some fire. Good sleep dart, however, will peel a bit. Mono, he is taken down in the end. Was able to set up for a kill on a Sanguinar. And Anamo manages to push forward and get the res. Puts him right back into the mix of things here as Yobi finds a kill on the Hylie and is currently surging up towards that EMP. Lister will take him down with a nice headshot in the end, but only 16% away is Yobi, so they will be able to get back in for this recontest on the point.
It's actually crazy to watch how Mono plays when he knows he has 2 lives, because he knows Anamo's going to get the res. Like when he knows that he might die, he's just going to go in. It's actually insane to see the stuff that he tries to pull off. Now he's got a nano to get Primal, so Primal's guaranteed. So he's got 2 lives here. You know, a cat may have 9 lives, but Mono has 4, you know, in these cases.
Yeah, really good spy check too. Spots out Babel. He was not able to get too much charge towards that EMP on the back end of that. Yobi falling low, Slipper paid for him. Seems like he will be able to stay alive though, and crucially needs to, as that EMP is now available. Sanguinar pops the Valkyrie. Dynamite not going to be able to find much, and Mono does get eliminated.
No res this time.
He was hacked, but either way, doesn't get to use that Primal Rage. EMP comes out from Yobi.
The EMP is big.
They're looking for Kleston. They're trying to take him down, but they cannot get that kill. They cannot get the D-Mech. Now there's a self-destruct coming out over top of the point. Bianca using his own, looking for a pick, looking to shut this down, but London Spitfire are starting to become entrenched on the point. They smack Mono away. Primal Range is ready to go. He can buy some time. Then he goes up, goes into the back line, but somebody's got a tag. They finally do manage to get their way onto the point, but now they're struggling. Yobi, such low HP, tries to play up on the corner, and they just can't get there.
No.
Mono in the Primal Range. Why is he going into the back line? He should be on the point, but no one else can touch.
That was so bad. That was a huge misplay. He was slept, and he dove in the wrong direction. Also, I don't know if Yobi had translocator or not. Like I would love to see a replay of that. I don't know if he had translocator or not, but he definitely could have touched there, especially while Mono was jumping in. The fact that nobody was willing to die to touch when Mono had Primal coming through, that's a misplay. That's some miscoordination. It wasn't a C9. They weren't winning a team fight necessarily, but it was definitely a moment where we could have seen an extended team fight there, but we just didn't get to.
Nope, we didn't. And London Spitfire are, in fact, in this series. Their map loss streak has ended. They have finally broken it versus the NYXL, which is not something that anybody would have anticipated coming into today. So not done yet. London Spitfire are trying to pull off a reverse sweep. They've got 1 foot forward. They need to get another one in order to force a map 5. We're going to go to a quick break, and when we come back, we'll see if they can do just that. So don't go anywhere, because suddenly things are heating up.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
able to pick up a map win. Numbani is theirs, and we go deeper into the series. No more 3 Overwatch for us here today. London and Spitfire are here to play. I didn't even mean for that to rhyme when I started that sentence, but screw it. We're going forward. Volskaya Industry is getting ready to come up to see if London Spitfire can keep moving towards a reverse sweep.
Yeah, I don't even remember what the 4th map was because in my mind I was like, well, I don't think this is gonna go London Spitfire's way. It seems very unlikely. We've got our maps coming up in just a moment. We'll take a look. And I'll refresh my memory. Volskaya, okay.
Yes.
Well, that's a really good map for Glister. I feel like that's a really, really important Ashe map. I mean, he could even play the Widowmaker on it. So, I mean, I don't want to say it. I don't want to go as far as to say it favors London Spitfire, but I will say that it favors Glister. So far, based on how we're seeing him
Seems
play
like
the hit
that's
scan,
enough.
and that might just be enough. I mean, it just simply might be.
I mean, we'll find out here in a little bit as we get ready to jump into that. I'm curious to see if there's any change-ups for the side of New York. Didn't quite catch if there was any sub-graphics coming through, so we'll find out in a moment here as we do get loaded up. But I think given the speed that we've gotten into this map, because I can hear the music coming through now, likely not going to be having any of those substitutions. So here we go, Volskaya Industries, to see if London can push us to a 5th and final map. And honestly, one of my biggest questions coming into this, Wolf, is there going to be another full hold? Because we've been having a lot of that today.
I mean, there might be. But I think the reason why you get a lot of full holds in this meta too, you know, with the meta we have in APAC, is because when you have Ashe and Sombra, the defender has a lot of advantages because you have sightline advantages, you're usually going to have EMP build time advantages, you're going to have faster EMPs, you're going to have faster bobs, you're usually going to have the faster nano boost and the faster primals, and like all these things add up to where you kind of end up oftentimes lapping your opponent in terms of ult charge, and if you can just keep the rhythm going on those defensive like ult cycles, you have a higher chance of getting a full hold. Well, that's my take on why we're seeing it so much. But I thought for a second we might see Reaper for real, but could still happen, but it seems unlikely now. We're just going to see the teleport strat.
This is going to
be scouted. Going mid and then come over here.
Yeah, JMac will have heard the teleport come through. So is ready for that. SABLB, after TPing his teammates forward, will be swapping over onto the Sombra, as you would anticipate. Libero with this Widowmaker on the hunt, looking for a target. Wants Babel there for a moment. Really wants Glister to get rid of him. That's the breakthrough that New York needs. Trying to make their way onto this point. For now, just going to be playing this one out slowly.
Mono's sneaking around the other side. I think he really wants to threaten that backline, but he is spotted and pushed away. Uh-oh, that's a big problem for JMac. They actually have to commit onto the point, or they're just going to lose a tick.
Yeah, first tick getting ready to come in now. They move away from the point here for the moment, and the first tick will be surrendered here by London Spitfire. Doesn't necessarily matter, and it's a good crossfire set up there. Libero trying to escape from JMac, does get taken down by Glister with a very nice headshot. JMac falling low as the res comes in from Anamo. Libero straight back into the fight, looking for another pickoff. Dive in from Mono, looking for Highly. The Bionade is going to be good, but now the Primal Rage comes out. They're standing dangerously close to a ledge. Hack comes in, but Mono still has so much HP. They just don't have the damage to really deal with this Winston. Preston de-suited, finished off as JMax around the backside nearly with that Primal, but he's just going to go for the reset, and it will not be a full hold here on Volskaya. The cap comes in. New York now with 5 minutes and 16 seconds, and a plethora of ultimates to utilize.
EMP. Yeah, I mean, not only New York, but it feels like New York is one of the only teams, and a team that seems like very consistently is able to take points with very few kills. So here's the EMP for Babel first before SABLB has his own. He's going to translocate away, and New York has positional advantage now.
Yep. Make their way onto the point now as JMac pops the Primal Rage. SABLB, however, going to be finished off as Cleston finds the kill. JMac looking at some finishing blows here. Will manage to get Bianca knocked off the side of the mat. And it looks like that is going to be enough here. New York Excelsior trying to escape as much as they possibly can, but they will just go ahead and get finished off. So second lease on life now for the London Spitfire's defense. EMP, however, still held by SABLB.
Glister hates shields. Yeah, they have the same ults they weren't able to use though in the previous fight, ready to go for this one. Really good target prioritization from Len Spitfire though to make sure that EMP couldn't go off. Push the Namo back. Babel playing very far forward here. I mean, if he did get caught, you know, he'd have some time to respawn, but you need to be careful about that. It's not worth the risk when New York's not even really approaching the gate.
Oh my goodness! Oh
EMP
boy!
canceled.
Sabiolby loses the EMP. Glister does it again. Headshot to shut down the ultimate, and that was the all-in for New York. Now they have to farm up another one. Babel is going to lap him and get a defensive EMP ready.
Yeah,
Huge
I think that was highly sleep too that helped set that up. And
replay, please.
I mean,
something what? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
they just want to throw. They just want to throw ults in.
Okay, they're still going for it. The Thunderstruck now going to be out from Kleston. The Baby Diva will get finished off. It's a good hit from Mono to go ahead and send Glister up the side of the map. Libero going to be eliminated. A 2-for-2 exchange as far as New York Excelsior tries to stay stuck to the point. Sleep there onto Mono. It's very low in HP, but will get topped back up. But can they actually make this fight work? J-Max almost got a Primal Rage. Babel still holds on to the EMP. There's a Nano Boost available, and I think New York just chucked everything out.
Yeah, New York that was very expensive.
What's going on?
And I mean, the thing is, when you have 5 minutes plus time bank, sometimes you feel like, okay, well, we can just cycle ultimates here and see what we can get. We can get a tick and then come back and then build ults. We can force their ults out. But in this case, I don't think they really got anything out of that. You know, this is advantage Len Spitfire in every regard. Now, Libero does get a kill, so we'll see how this ensues.
I mean, they find one, but Sanguinar is now a respawn. New York haven't even touched the point since they picked off the Mercy, so he's straight back into the fight. Kleston grabs a Mega Pack to keep himself alive. As J-Mac goes in deep with the Primal Rage well into the back line. Sleep Dart will connect, however, from Jonak as Libero finds Glister. That's crucial. Now the Baby Diva's going to be gone to the res, brings Glister straight back into the fray. Again, this is just New York Excelsior taking 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah, look at that Bionade attempt from Jonak. Doesn't connect. It's like absorbed by Kleston. And they're really grasping at straws for the engage here. Sabiolby again going very deep. And that can sometimes get you a huge EMP, but it could also just lead to your demise, as we saw previously. And he gets slept. He's not slept this time.
The EMP from Sabiolby finds the supports, and Highly will be eliminated. Mono able to capitalize on that, but Glister still situated on the high ground, manages to find one. Reds comes through, they put Libero back into the fight. Dynamite goes on to Mono, but it's not going to be enough damage to really threaten the Winston. Self-destruct going to be absorbed in the bubble. Good deterrent there from Mono as the bomb comes out onto the point. Self-destruct up over the back here from Bianca. Will manage to find Glister, and suddenly New York, it looks like they might be able to get something done here on the point. First tick getting ready to roll through as they finish off the bomb. One tick picked up, the second
really good
one
for
now
New York.
coming in. Mono still sitting right next to the spawn, has that Primal Rage available to try and knock off the respawning members of the London Spitfire. Kleston already going to be gone. Sanguinar floating around with a Valkyrie, goes in for the res, manages to find it, brings the Diva back into the mix of things as Glister will be taken down after swapping back over onto the Doomfist. J-Mac dives in, Primal Rage is out, pushing him away from the point. D-Suit comes in onto Kleston, the Nano Boost now out onto J-Mac as he tries to build up desperately for that Primal Rage, but he might not be given the opportunity because the healing has been cut in half. 4% left to go as he dives in. He gets the Primal online, he pops it instantly, and Sabiolby gets cut down again before he can use the EMP. Babel strikes with one of his own, finds 3 members on the side of NYXL, who now have 30 seconds remaining and just 82% about to be built up on the point. The Bro going to fall, the Dynamite goes out, a little bit of damage, a smattering of it onto J-Mac, who slowly gets topped back up. Sanguinar going to be dead as he swaps over onto the Lucio, and Kleston de-suited and likely finished off. He was very low with that Baby Diva. Point, however, is occupied by New York. London cannot stay in there, so the cap comes through, but it's only 15 seconds. NYXL started with 5.5 minutes, and you can't help but wonder how much they would have if they just didn't toss their ultimates out willy-nilly at the start.
Yeah, that's the big question, right? And Jonak, has been working overtime to try to get Mono into position to get those fast primals to kind of keep up with things. So Mono is keeping these primals very quickly, and yeah, it was the sleep, but also the headshot. I mean, I don't even think the sleep was required in this case. But Sabiolby's EMPs have been very risky. Like, he's trying to set for these amazing EMPs. He's dying oftentimes before he can set them up, where the rest of his team is setting up for it to engage. around his EMP to time it with him, and then he dies as the engage is happening. Whether he keeps EMP or not, New York just kind of is like, well, this fight we were trying to take doesn't work, and you can't retreat because you've already dove in, you've already used all your cooldowns, and you just end up getting destroyed. London Spitfire, I think the most impressive thing about that hold was how disciplined they were with their ultimates. They would get a kill or two on New York and then just hold all ultimates. They were extremely ult efficient, and that's why they were able to burn, was it 530 or so? That time bank down to 15 seconds just by being very cautious, very safe with their ult usage. And also Highly and Glister doing a great job of shutting down Sabielby's often risky EMP setups.
There we go again. Sabielby scouting forward. No teleport shenanigans here for London Spitfire. Just going straight through mid. Sabielby tries to farm up. Babel waiting for his moment. Very slow passive play here for London. Just waiting out the biotic grenades. Looking like Sabielby might go for a hack onto Highly, perhaps? Gotta be careful though. The sleep darts have been really clutch from him. Oh, okay. Well, back over onto the point. In the meantime, Mono has been eliminated. Nanamo does manage to find the res around the corner. So they don't lose too much time. They don't give up any percent so far. Jonak just plays around this health pack. Gets tagged up, goes into the back line, sees Jonak, tries to get that kill, but cannot do so. And puts himself out in no man's land for Mono to capitalize and get the kill. Mr. finds Sabielby going to be delaying that EMP, allowing for Babel to get a comfortable lead towards that ultimate. London Spitfire still have to play a little bit patiently as they wait for JMac to come back into the fight.
Yeah, and Babel had an EMP charge right now. Going to be a really huge boon for London Spitfire going into this next fight, because you can see him surge forward. He's going to get it first. He gets the kill on Mono as well.
Yet again.
London Spitfire, I think they've kind of locked this one down.
Yeah, they very well may have. New York Excelsior, if they pull back and don't force an EMP out of London Spitfire, there's a huge potential for them. The EMP will get forced. It goes on to Bianca, the only member going to be caught by that one. Kleston's going to be taken down, and NYXL yet might be able to flip this over into their favor. The Bob's out, chipping away at the supports as they chase through. Will be able to get a kill onto Sanguinar. It seems like NYXL will be able to capitalize and hold off the London Spitfire for a bit longer. 2 minutes now remaining, half the time bank gone, and nothing gained on the point thus far.
Yeah, that was actually, it's crazy that London wasn't even able to get a single tick. Jonak's decision to nano boost Bianca ended up being the perfect one there as well. Just being able to, he was able to do so much damage and force London Spitfire back and secure those kills. Now they're going to look for the EMP fight here. Ideally, he needs to hit JMac. And he does, but it's a second too late.
Yeah, the Primal Rage comes in. JMac can't leap around, so he doesn't have as much mobility as he would like. Does at least have survivability here for the moment, but the Primal Rage will expire, so it doesn't get much done with that ultimate. Now 3 out for Sanguinar, now going to be expiring. So they look for setup, they look for their way to make their stance here on the point. Jump onto the high ground, comes through, gets the kill onto Jonak, but Glister already gone. Rez comes out, Jonak's back in the fight, and we can't say the same for Glister. Sanguinar just unsafe, can't get into a position to try and put him back into the fight, and then gets taken down by the Primal here from Mono. Will manage to punish him on that back end, but London Spitfire completely out of sorts. They need to get onto this point, they need to do it very soon. JMac going to be finished off. There's 46 seconds remaining here.
They could have capped, I think, by this point, you know? They could have at least been forcing Jonak back. I mean, they decide to retreat instead, and they want to look for this EMP fight, which I think is totally reasonable. Mono just used his Primal, so you're not going to have that to kind of deter you on this point. But they don't have any ticks yet. That's the problem. In the longer fight, York can stabilize. They need that EMP engage to be big.
Translocator's out.
It's too late, it's too slow.
Great focus fire here from NYXL. EMP does come out from Babel, but again, it's only going to be solo on a Mono, who will be kept alive. Babel now going to fall. Somebody's got to touch the point, and even then, it's going to take a miracle for the London Spitfire to turn this one around. They had a fantastic defense, but it seems like it is not meant to be to try to pull off this reverse sweep. They look for the touch in the back line,
huge
but
knockback
gets deterred. Great knockback comes through, and New York will be able to full hold London Spitfire on their attack, and they secure the victory. this looked like this might have been able to go the distance. London was starting to come alive. That was a great start for them on Volskaya. And it's, again, London showing glimmers of hope, showing a lot of potential, but then just crumbling right in front of the finish line before they can try to get to that 5th and final map. Great focus fire from NYXL, realizing that if we kill Glister, we probably just win the game.
Well-deserved player of the match presented by Xfinity is going to be Mono. Very, very insane Winston plays tonight. I think there's no question in anyone's mind he was the player of the match. Big shout-outs to Jonak and Anamo, who kept him alive. I mean, when you think about it, okay, let's talk about what I was talking about earlier on Nubani for a second. Mono has, he's got multiple lives. He has 2 lives by default with res, so he can push things extremely far and then get rezzed if he gets overextended or gets stuffed or something like that. Then he has Primal later, which gives him another life. Then he has Nano Boost. Right? By the time he's used all those, there might be another res. And the team supports him, both supports support him so well that he can push the limits of Winston beyond, almost sometimes beyond, I think, my understanding of what the hero is capable of. Sometimes when I see Mono jumping, I think, what a fool. Like, there's no way he can actually get that kill. There's no way he can actually make that happen. There's no way that's going to be safe enough. There's no way he lives. And he does, or he does tons of damage, goes up to 50%, dies, then gets rezzed, or gets nanoed, because his supports are taking care of him so well. The synergy between him and his supports is top-notch, and we saw that showcased time and time again throughout the series.
Yeah, I think it was Fisher who recently was doing a bit of a VOD review about the NYXL matches on his own stream, and he kind of said that Anamo, the reason that why NYXL was struggling as of late was because Anamo was trying to split time in saving Jonak and saving Mono. And it seems like Jonak today took a bit more of a reserved approach compared to normal, and both of them just fully focused on keeping Mono alive, and they enabled him to have those multiple lives that you're talking about. So I think that this kind of restructure of the play style for NYXL could very much work out for them in the long run if they just keep siphoning their resources into him and then kind of allow for the DPS to just exist around this Winston that is drawing so much attention. It was a good effort overall for the London Spitfire. I was hoping that they were going to take us to a 5th and final map. That being said, there were still some great moments for them here. The plays on Numbani to get that win on the board, the defense on Volskaya when things could have been absolutely tragic for them off the get-go. They were able to persevere for a while, but unfortunately couldn't get enough done to cap point A, to try to even attempt to go to B. But I think that this was still a good showing for them, and for London Spitfire fans, sure, I think you could have some confidence for London Spitfire going up against Seoul Dynasty tomorrow, given what we've seen from both of these teams today.
Yeah, I mean, I hope tomorrow doesn't end up being one-sided either way. It's our only match tomorrow, so I want it to be a good one. I am looking forward to it. New York, though, I mean, New York's one of those teams, you think about Shanghai, just Shanghai wins Asia. It's Shanghai versus whoever wins North America, right? That's where everybody's placing things, but sometimes when New York plays this well, when they have these high highs, you think maybe there's a chance New York could be in that top 2 spot. Maybe they could take Asia. It's possible. Really good play from them tonight. Absolutely.
Yeah. Still a long road ahead, but if they can continue on this trajectory, then that certainly does become a possibility. But that's going to do it for us here tonight, guys. 2 series out of the way. I know it's about to be 7 in the morning there for you, Wolf, so this allows you to get some good rest and be ready to come back in for tomorrow's single series, where hopefully some good action can be delivered for us to close out the regular season. But that does it from us. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you to our production staff for staying up late with us as usual. And we'll see you back here tomorrow for more APAC action tomorrow evening. Same place, same time. Until then, tune in for the N8 matches.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Xfinity, the preferred internet provider of the Overwatch League.